We ready to go on one? Hello. Good. Yeah. Manna from heaven, man. Take it. What is what? That's my, don't touch. Do you know why there's orange tape on it? So that I don't get it stolen like you do.
Hey, Dan, where are you that you've got that nice shirt on?
All right.
Sorry.
All right. Good morning. Um, my name is Phil Brennan. I'm the chair for today's Corporate Services Committee meeting. So welcome to everyone here and to anyone who may be listening in virtually. First of all, does anyone have a pecuniary interest that they need to declare? Seeing none, we'll move to delegations. Please be advised that in accordance with Council's procedural bylaw, no decision will be made on the delegations. The committee will do one of the following: that the matter be referred to staff for a report, that the matter be referred to the mayor for consideration during the budget, or we take no action. Our agenda calls for two delegations. Mr. Biss will be doing his momentarily. C2, the Tea Lake Property Owners Association, has asked Mark to represent their position, and he will do so in lieu of their presentation. So let's start. Would you please? We'll need you to use the mic so that the people that remotely can hear you.
Chairman, and it's Biss, not Bliss. I
Oh,
may be
Biss.
blissful, but I
Yes.
am Biss. And but everybody calls me Jamie, and but I have been a Biss all my life.
Good.
And I at times I feel like changing my name because it's a common mistake. But good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all of you for accommodating me so quickly. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Allison specifically. I'm here this morning not just as the owner of Coldwater Maple Company, a small homestead business in Fesserton on a few acres, but with the encouragement of some of our Severn maple and fresh farm producers who believe in this township's potential to shine as an actual leader in agritourism in Simcoe County. What I'm proposing is not a permanent bylaw change. In fact, as you've seen in your documents, and that I'll cover very briefly, not much of a change at all. Rather, I'm suggesting a seasonal pilot, a delicious experiment that lets us just taste what's possible. 3 short seasonal windows, this fall, and then again next spring, and then fall, where small farms can open their doors in carefully structured, modest ways beyond just a stand at the end of their driveway. Because right now, that's all that is pretty much possible. And there are a lot of precedents for this kind of time-boxed, reversible, and restricted approach. Temporary patios by municipalities like Midland, Collingwood, Orillia, and Toronto all come to mind, for example. Summer closures rather in Orillia, Barrie, and most famously in Ottawa and Toronto. I was at the Kensington Market last week, for example, which is a summer pedestrian experience. Use this approach with defined dates, data collection, and clear removal and restoration obligations. And of course, it's consistent with the Planning Act, Section 39, which authorizes temporary use bylaws that define the area and specify the time period, as I'm suggesting. And it's consistent with OMAFRA, agritourism guidelines, the province's guidelines for agricultural work. Because but rather this morning, what I'm suggesting is much, much simpler than anything I've used as a precedent, and it's appealing. What I'm sharing is an opportunity that puts Severn Township right on the visitor experience map and putting the responsibility into the hands of the farmers themselves, as it should be, in my opinion. With $10,000 already committed and available in social media marketing by the Ontario Ministry of Tourism RTO7 and the Simcoe maple syrup producers, of which I am secretary, Severn can be showcased as early as this fall as Savor Severn, the heart of maple country, something which the province and we are working very aggressively to promote as a long-term strategic project. At the most beautiful time of the year, a culinary tourism initiative celebrating our farms, our produce, our maple, and our hospitality. And not just on my property, obviously, but on anyone's rural ag business that wants to join in. So what am I suggesting exactly? To let agricultural producers, farmers, maple producers, etc., be one, permitted small handfuls of people and up to a maximum of 100 visitors per day for structured farm gate experiences beyond the actual farm gate on the end of their driveway. In my case, 10 people total per hour would be my own comfort level as an absolute reasonable max, for example. Number two, allowed temporary signage specifically for safety, navigation, and visibility and education. In my own case, I see it as being like a real estate open house kind of a sign, but that's just a personal comment. Three, permitted educational tastings and storytelling in small accessory buildings or tents. In my case, that's a tent about 10 feet square on my property. Four, allowed overflow parking on grass or gravel only within property boundaries, not on the road. Planning best practices use a simple 2% rule of thumb for guest parking. On my 3-acre plus parcel, that's about 4 cars, which is I can accommodate easily, plus my own. While a larger farm like Maple Grove down the road, who are well aware of my presentation this morning, could reasonably host 30 to 40 cars without affecting its rural character and not more than the 100-person cap that I'm proposing. Number 5, allow weekend hours, that is weekend hours, to 9 p.m. for sunset twilight visits, if desired by whoever. 6, to have small pre-booked group experiences, for example, a dozen guests, for such things as forest walks, maple workshops, and tasting events. And these, of course, would have to be AGCO and Simcoe Health Unit compliant, which would be required if we had food or drink. And some of you in the room and at the table are familiar with my idea of maple-themed tasting events. 7, enhanced farm gate experiences. I would be asking that you would ponder the idea of permitting limited sales of syrups and sauces and maple-themed products and value-added maple products like infused syrup, baked goods, etc., in a designated space beyond the farm gate during these seasonal windows. These are seasonally important and all part of the fun. If it's pouring rain, guests don't like standing at the end of the driveway. And to be clear, in all of this, I'm not talking about concerts or amplified music or retail markets. That is not what I'm talking or proposing about. I'm not talking about overnight stays or use of accessory buildings as dwellings. We're not going down that road. There would be no on-road parking or large vehicle traffic. And in fact, there would be full compliance with noise, lighting, fire, sanitation, and insurance requirements. And all of these events would be tied to the narrowly defined seasonal windows only, hence the concept of a seasonal variance. The benefits are tangible. This pilot will bring new visitors to our township, strengthen our local farms, and create a foundation for culinary tourism that supports not only maple producers and other food producers, but the wider Severn community. Obviously, we look for a ripple effect across restaurants and hotels and so forth. It is strategically aligned with our larger region and province while still leading our neighbors. By allowing a few short structured windows for our small producers to share their craft, we can test what works, learn what challenges arise, and build toward a model that is sustainable, seasonal, and distinctly Severn. Or simply end it as desired whenever you so wish. It's a limited pilot and it will be relatively easy to roll out. This is a low risk, high reward opportunity. No permanent bylaw change, no added burden on township staff. I'll be happy to address that. Just a chance to explore a vision of Severn as part of the heart of Maple Country. As you can see from the materials that I've provided and what I've shared, there are restrictions, and there are several that I'm including, and those restrictions are reasonable. I'm hoping you can see that we are merely allowing a very small number of guests proportionate to a farm's size and scale beyond the roadside cart. And we would be consistent with best practices that are safe and educational. A larger agricultural producer could have more cars than I could, say 30 cars, but they too would be capped by a total head count as per best planning principles. I look forward to your questions and to working together to make such a low footprint, self-financing tourism pilot a proud step forward for Severn in a leadership position that other townships will envy. Something we'd like to call Savor Severn. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any questions from council? Member Burkett?
Thank you through the chair. And Jamie, now I remember where I met you in Coldwater at the mills. So it took me a minute, but thank you very much for the presentation. It was excellent. I think our struggle with this, and it's a great idea, when you put people in buildings and you want us as leaders of the community to sign off on something, and you may be opening a Pandora's box, because a lot of these facilities that are doing great may have not had our staff in there to inspect them. You may be opening something that they don't want to disclose. And I can think of two right off the bat that pulled building permits and are still haven't complied with the rules that were outlined by the Planning Act and through our building inspector, because you mentioned building code, you mentioned fire, you mentioned the health unit. These are all safety issues, because once you put people in a building that hasn't been inspected, and they may not want to have it inspected, right? And our priority here sitting at this table is to keep everyone safe. And I know that's yours as well. So as I said, it's a great presentation. I just don't know how we would work this in without talking. And a lot of these maple syrup people may not want us in there. They may want to just work off the road.
Right. However, and I know who you're referring to very well. They are good, dear friends who are well aware of my presentation today. And I understand that they have unique issues that, for example, I don't have and other producers and farmers don't have specifically. But it is possible in any kind of event, whether it's a market or a summer patio, or whether it's an extended farm gate experience with a tent, these are things that can be addressed with things like required couple of porta toilets, a fire inspection of the 10 by 10 tent that I have. These are all surmountable things, but I appreciate there may be building code issues for some participants that they would have to address in their own way to get sign off from the fire department or sign off from a safety standpoint. But there's nothing I've said in so far that excludes that scenario.
Absolutely. If I may, through the chair, absolutely. I agree. And if that's something the producers would like to entertain and have our staff come in there and do it, 100% right behind you. But we have to get everyone on board.
Yep.
Right.
I think that is understood.
I think that's the way, at least sitting here from my perspective. I can't speak for my colleagues, but that would be the most important thing. We have to treat everyone equal throughout the whole township, whether they're
Absolutely.
right, whether they're a business or a different type of business, everyone gets treated the same.
Yeah, agreed. And that is why I've come to you today, not just as my business, but with something that could work in a more creative way and look at an opportunity rather than just stonewalling.
Thank you. Member Taylor and then Member Cox.
Yeah, just a question and then my comment. So are you an actual producer yourself in Featherton?
I am, although I must confess, it's a little early in the season.
Fair enough. And our family does it as well. And I would say, like, we need economic development in the township, and whether we could refer it to staff for report, and it may highlight what the mayor is saying, but I think we should get it out there, and what we can do to get money coming into our township, I'm all for it.
Member Cox.
Thank you very much. The concept is very nice. But in my opinion, I will be asking our planner to speak. You gave up many issues about we'd only have a maximum of this and we'd only have that. How do you police that?
Mm-hmm.
And we can't be there. And I think our bylaw would be very busy. And I think that the other one is if we start bypassing zoning bylaws for one group of people, what do we do for the rest of the different businesses that we've already had come before us? And we have said to them, you need to do these before rezoning, before anything. So I would like to ask our Director of Planning, Andrea, your feelings on this and how does it jive with our OP? I mean, the concept is lovely, but to try to get it in for the fall of 2026, but I still have a problem with equal ground for people who have already been here, and we have said, no, you can't do that business. You can't even do it part-time because you have to change and ask for a rezoning. So Andrea, if you could speak to that, please.
Thank you. If I may, through the chair to Member Cox. So council is probably well aware that we've had many successful applicants come before council for site-specific development applications under the Planning Act. And we look at each property and scenario business proposal on its merits and based on site-specific considerations. That's varied anywhere from the type of fire route and fire suppression, building code requirements, parking requirements, sanitary and septic waste disposal, that sort of thing. So each property has been successful, but it has been looked at on a case-by-case scenario based, again, on the property and the site-specific considerations. And the senior planner is also online. She may wish to add something as well. Thank you.
Yeah, through Katie, and I also like to speak to the fact that what type of precedent does this set to other businesses who may want to come in and do the same, and we still will have to do some type of site visits or whatever it is. It doesn't take away, as the mayor said, the safety part, the ensuring that everything is done part, and the maximum numbers and the parking and things. Thank you.
Through the chair to Member Cox, absolutely. So the mechanism staff currently use to ensure all of those safety mechanisms are in place is the site plan agreement mechanism. So Currently, everyone who wants an on-farm diversified use or a home industry. So if you're a contractor and you employ 3 people and everyone comes to your house and you have a shop there, and then maybe you make some things on site, maybe you just have materials on site, and then you go off, to another site, maybe customers come to your home. That would be a home industry. So an on-farm diversified use is similar in a way to a home industry. Even a home industry needs to go through a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment and also a site plan agreement. The way township staff conduct the fire inspection, the building code inspections, the parking, the fire route, all of those things is through that site plan agreement process. In fact, under the Planning Act, laying out a commercial parking lot, so laying out a parking lot where individual members of the public park is an automatic trigger for a site plan agreement. So as much as this presentation may be a great idea and, a road to economic development, I just from a policy standpoint don't understand how you get there. So, council in the future could consider initiatives related to economic development, related to on-farm diversified use, but I don't think the need for the site plan agreement is something that's going to go away. And that applies to every, small and large business within the township of Severn. That's a requirement from the province.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member McIntyre?
Thank you to the chair. A nice presentation, Mr. Biss. How many of your colleagues that you can you give us a number? How many would like to do this?
Yeah, if we think of it as a pilot, that would be a fall, spring, fall activity. I think there would be a handful this fall. There'll be 2 handfuls in the spring, and maybe we'd be much bigger by a year from now. But if we don't try it, we won't have any momentum. If we just say, do your bestest to individually make application, as I'm hearing from the room, we will have the impasse that we are right now, where we do not participate in Severn. We cannot participate in Severn beyond a farm stand in things such as Tap into Maple or Maple Weekend. We are offside on these projects and offside in the province and in the county. What I'm talking about is meant to address a more fair approach that would be open to any farm type business. It's meant to simplify, not complicate the process for all small businesses. What I'm envisioning, which I realize is a huge leap of faith, is a system of an online form that assumes you're a good guy, not a bad guy. And I realize that's a huge leap of faith in this business. And I get that. I appreciate the work of overworked staff and the political liability on the part of council. But at the end of the day, if someone has to get the fire chief to inspect their tent, well, I've done it. I've done it with much more complicated projects. If I need to get a couple of porta potties as a minimum, because that's what the minimum's going to be as per normal planning practices, and one of them's handicap friendly, we can do that, no problem. All of the kind of liability insurance, all of us already have it. This is a standard business thing. These are all check, check, check kind of situations. And these can be done. Now, do we need bylaw enforcement officers checking every day the farm stand or the tent beyond the farm stand? That's absurd. Would it have to be done occasionally? I suppose. But to answer your question specifically, the scale of this is, in the beginning as a pilot, very small. And I think we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater by getting anxious about bylaw enforcement officers. I appreciate
Thank you.
that, Snitch.
Yeah, Member Minnings, and then Madam CEO.
Hi, thank you through the chair, and thank you for the presentation. I would love to see this go forward as a pilot project. One of the pillars that we committed to as a council when I started this term was economic development, and I think this is a really nice sectoral approach forward for that. And I would agree, it's just from what you said to the speaker, that bylaw does not need to go out every day and count cars or anything. And as a matter of fact, bylaw operates on a complaints basis in the township. So, because otherwise that would apply for every single thing we do. I think this is a nice small package you've presented to us, and being forward, and very much future thinking. I'm always looking for these great opportunities to do things that we haven't done before. And I think this is a great opportunity for us as a council and to support this small sector of maple syrup producers. I think it's very doable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam CEO?
Thank you. Mr. Biss referred to it as a potential impasse. It's not an impasse. There is always a path forward, and the path forward has been zoning bylaw amendments. The challenge, I mean, it sounds like a fantastic idea, and we absolutely want to support economic development, but council has to do it safely and fairly for everyone. Planning rules seem to be thought of as an impediment, but in fact, they're a land use compatibility and they're a safety mechanism. So to blanket, say one size fits all is a challenge. And maple syrup is a big draw here, but we have lots of other similar kinds of businesses. So if you opt out of the rules for one, then you're going to have to opt out of the rules for others. As the director of planning said, we've had lots of successful applications, and when they're applied properly, council always approves them and supports them. And in all honesty, we haven't had a great track record with the maple syrup producers. They promise they're not going to do something, and then they do something. So it's a bigger leap of faith than I would recommend council consider.
Thank you. Oh, yes, Member Burkett.
Through the chair, Jamie, so as far as insurance, like you would have insurance on your and allow people to come onto your property?
Yeah, typically $5 million commercial liability insurance for if somebody stubs their toe or whatever the issue is.
Do
That's
they
standard.
ask if you have all the safeguards, like the fire department, the building departments come in to?
It's usually part of a policy in the same way your house or your business.
Yeah,
has
so that's
insurance.
so your presentation. So the ones that you would like to see, and again, it's an amazing presentation. I love it, but are they going to, like the producers? Do they have insurance? Because our responsibility here is to make sure that
they do.
Yeah, like that.
I can assure you that all of the producers that I can think of and that you probably can think of all have commercial insurance. And that would be one of the things that they would have to demonstrate as part of the simple form that I'm talking about. It's a standard process when you apply for something. So the liability insurance piece, if I want to be a vendor at the Steampunk Festival in Coldwater, I have to have liability insurance and insurance, and it's like $50 for the day sort of thing. But a business like a maple syrup producer or any other farm has to have commercial insurance, or as far as I know. And we also have the protections afforded under Bill 156, for example, from the province that restricts unruly mobs from descending upon the farm and putting the farm owner in peril. So there are controls the farmer on his private property or her private property can exercise. That's why the province did Bill 156. So it would be, I totally agree and support. I think it's wonderful that we have staff take a look at this and say, well, we hate this part and we love that part, and we think we can kind of come up with a variation thereof. That would be tremendous progress, because I do disagree with the assumption that everything's tickety-boo. I don't think it is. I think that we're offside in Severn, and I'm here to say that there is a way of looking at it with fresh new eyes and saying, well, how can we make it even better? And yet do it with a really great perception.
Are you, sorry, supplementary if I may through the chair. So the the syrup producers that you know that are in Severn that would like to do this, have they come and asked for, as Ms. Mandeville has stated, for a site plan and had a look at what they propose to do? Because doing it for seasonal is fine, but you would still have to go through the process, right?
Well, seasonal gives you folks the power to let it run or turn it off as a test thing. That's the joy of why you have the powers to do that.
But my struggle is, if I'm going to allow it to be seasonal and sitting in this chair, I'm breaking rules. So I'm allowing the syrup producers to do it seasonally as a pilot. But any of the other businesses that have had to go through a site plan agreement, like, why wouldn't they just go through the process?
Why wouldn't any
The-
farmer do
yes.
something like this?
Yeah, well, I meant-
Absolutely, the more the merrier.
No, but go through the process, through the planning department, apply for a site plan and do what
But
needs to
wouldn't
be.
that create an undue burden, respectfully, Mr. Mayor, on overworked staff? In other words, what I'm suggesting is a much simpler process if we can hammer out what the check boxes are.
But I'm saying that you mentioned safety, and safety is one of my concerns. Without our people going in to make sure that the establishment is safe, is complying with the rules, that's my struggle. So if something did happen, they're going to sue the township and they're going to sue the farmer. And I really struggle with that, and shame on us for not following through with the proper safeguards. That's my struggle. As much as I want economic development, I want these businesses to succeed, and I'm in business myself as well. And I know what I have to carry for insurance. And God forbid should something happen, and I comply with the rules. So that's my struggle with
I
this.
used to teach law, and I can tell you one of the things I used to teach in civil law is that everybody can sue anybody for anything, anytime, including the color of your tie, respectfully. So these are matters that, while council has to be mindful at all times of their liability and exposure, the reality is that anything is possible. What we want to do is tighten it up where there are constraints that make it a reasonable proposition. But safety would be paramount, of course, and it would be to every producer and every farmer who's participating as part of this.
Supplement, if I may, as a lawyer. So you're asking us as a council sitting here to give you forgiveness as a pilot for 3 months without any rules. So I'm really struggling with that.
Well, there'll be rules. I'm saying these are some conditions I came up with, but
Well, I think in all fairness, the province outlines what we need to do, as Ms. Mandeville has said, through the Planning Act. So we need to comply with that. Like, I don't want to get into,
yeah.
like, but my concern is you're asking us for an exemption, and every other business in this township has had to go through the proper process to get where they are today. But you're asking the people that are, a 3-month or a 3-season window to do business without doing all the proper documentation. That's my struggle.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned the precedence of doing, for example, a patio in Midland, or doing a closed street in Kensington, or the original Spark Street Mall. These are things that are bigger picture decisions that councils and municipalities from time to time make, that are a distinct package, that are test time limited, reversible things that don't change all the other bylaws and all the other processes that already exist. You still have no parking and stuff on streets that are actually closed to pedestrians for 2 weeks in the summer, sort of thing. Those bylaws still stay in place. It's just a seasonal tourism focused thing. That's, I think, what's involved here.
I'm going to take a question from Madam CAO, and then I want to bring this to closure for today's session.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. The clerk has reminded me that delegations were not supposed to debate. We're supposed to either refer to a report or receive for information. So I'll just give you 2 quick things to think about. All of the measures that Mr. Biss has suggested require staff time. So, and the examples he gave are all things that have a dedicated process and likely a fee attached. So we would need to look at that, because normally we collect those fees through the planning planning fee. So we would have to look at that. And the other thing is, I don't think, even if council is willing to support this, I don't think you can do it for fall 2025 because there's just too much work to be done before that. You don't have a meeting before the time frame was suggested. So probably can't happen for this year. So council can either refer it to a report or receive it for information.
Well, I guess mine is a debate question.
Okay, then-
We're going to call.
Can we hold that? All right.
Let's leave it.
So, I mean, based on the discussion, no, I'm not taking any more questions here. I'm going to bring the closure.
It's not a question. I was just going to call for a motion to
Yeah,
for
I'm-
staff report.
That's exactly where I'm going. If let me finish, please. Yeah, so I just want to be clear. We don't make a decision today. I think one of the concerns I have with the overall discussion is the idea that Severn is different from other communities when it comes to the maple syrup industry. So I would favor the preparation of a staff report, if for nothing else, to add some clarity to this issue. So that's what I would think would be the suggestion. And I think that's where we're coming from. So I'm going to ask our Madam Clerk for a motion, please.
Thank you. Motion reads that the delegation from James Biss regarding a request for seasonal bylaw variance pilot for autumn and spring to promote maple agri-tourism be received and referred for a report.
Mover is Member Taylor, seconder Member Burkett. All in favor? And the motion is passed. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I think I know where I got the Bliss from. My favorite professor at university was Michael Bliss. He was an amazing professor. He was often quoted in the Globe and Mail. And just,
I knew him personally because of our.
did you? Yeah, he was a remarkable man. Thank you. Good day. C2 now, I'm going to ask for Member Taylor to bring this forward.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've been in contact with Mr. Neiman, the president of the Teal Lake Cottage Association, and they have attended the Severn Sound Open House in Penetang and have been in contact there. And basically what they're asking for, if the township could request from Severn Sound a similar program to what's being done on McLean Lake. Things like getting historical data on temperature, water clarity, dissolved oxygen, conductivity, invasive species. Like it's all good stuff, but we need some, they need some tracking to get some historical data there. But basically looking to see what Severn Sound would charge for that study. So I'm asking if it would go to Severn Sound and come back and we can look at it, what they're asking for and what the costs are. Thank you.
Questions, discussion? Yes. Member Cox.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we need to send it to Severn Sound and then maybe it comes back to us for budget. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? No. All right. Madam Clerk, can we have a motion, please?
Thank you. So the motion is that the correspondence from the Teal Lake Property Owners Association regarding a request for water monitoring system be received and referred for report, in this case to the Severn Sound Environmental Association. So it's clear that it's not internal staff.
Mover? Moved by Member McIntyre, seconded by Member Cox. All in favor? The motion is passed. All right, we have no public meetings. Moving on to the consent agenda. I'm going to start off with me here for, because of the length of our agenda today, I'm suggesting that the E22 presentation, it's not really a presentation, it's just me talk. I want to move that to after the consent agenda procedure, not to new business. All right. And anything that you want to pull? Member Cox.
Yes, I'd like to pull 2.3, Coldwater and District Agriculture Society request to install a sea can container on the fairgrounds.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Member Burkett.
I'd like to pull E 1.3 and E 1.4, please.
Yeah, and yes, Member Jensen.
I'd like to pull the county seeking public input for future of Matchedash Transfer Station E.2.1, please.
Got it? And anyone else? All right, well, that's it. Okay, those items, oh, yes,
So we just
Madam
need a
Clerk.
motion to adopt the consent.
yes, thank you.
Okay, so motion reads that the agenda be adopted, including consent items with the exception of items number E 1.3, E 1.4, E 2.1, E 2.2, and E 2.3.
Right. Mover, moved by Member Cox, seconded by Member Taylor, all in favor? Oh, yes, Member Mannings? Oh, okay. Thank you.
No, I was voting.
Yeah, Member McIntyre pointed that out. Good, thanks. I don't blame her. I'll give you some background on this item. The Aurelia Fertility Clinic needs to expand, and their current location does not have the space. The lead doctor has been looking for space in Aurelia, but nothing is large or enough or available in their timeline. Rebecca and her husband own 3835 Campbell Road and have a 10-tenant downsizing, meaning that they have some available space. She has had discussions with the lead doctor for this initiative. And in fact, the lead doctor has visited the site and is excited about an opportunity to locate there. I'll add that Ora Medonti is also interested in the position or in the clinic as well. So I had recommended when Rebecca contacted me that she meet with our economic development officer and our senior planner and then meet with me. She did that. And I have been advised that Katie and Becky have recommended that she was to write a letter to council requesting a zoning amendment that would allow health service establishments in all commercial zones. It's kind of like a housekeeping thing, sort of an oversight. The planning department would be supportive of the letter and the amendment. And and I guess that sort of summarizes it from our point of view at this time. Rebecca, really, if there is something you wanted to add, just add it now, or have I covered it for you? Okay. Yes, well, we're going to move there now. Do we have questions from any member of committee? Okay, no questions from committee? All right, member of CAO.
Just gonna say, you can't ask questions of the audience. It's
Yeah.
not a deputation.
Did you have any other question? No. Oh, okay. All right, can we have a motion then?
Yes, we have a motion that reads that the correspondence from Rebecca Steele regarding a proposal to permit health services establishments in C4 highway commercial zones be received, and that staff bring forward a zoning bylaw housekeeping amendment as soon as possible.
Yeah, we have a mover and you have a question. Go ahead.
So will this housekeeping bylaw amendment be bringing forth any other ones?
There's Katie. Yes. Yes, Katie.
Or is this just a minor one?
Through the chair to member Cox, this is an extremely minor housekeeping amendment. It doesn't require us drafting any policies. So this is probably something that can happen relatively quickly as a standalone item. And that is what we had discussed with the author of the correspondence. So unfortunately, for the rest of the residents in Severn, I don't think we're going to tie this to anything else. But fortunately for the applicant, I think that means we can bring it forward really quickly.
Well, thank you for clarifying. That's why I asked the question.
And do we? Yes, Member Minnings.
I thank you through the chair. Katie, further to what you just said, that it just raises more questions as to why this zoning bylaw amendment would be simpler to do. There's still questions around liability, insurance, all of this parking, the same things that we had from our delegate who spoke earlier. So can you help me understand what the differences are where a healthcare group would be able to have a zoning bylaw amendment fairly quickly, but a group of maple syrup producers won't. I just don't understand the nuances.
Yes, Katie, please proceed. Yeah.
Through
Michigan.
the chair to member Minnings. So essentially, we have in the zoning bylaw a list of permitted uses, and then you'll see within each of the zones. So for example, within all of the commercial zones, there's quite a lengthy list of permitted uses within table 7.1. And you'll see all the permitted uses are listed, and then there's a little dot if it's permitted in the C1, the C2, C3, C4, C blah, 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 all the way to 10. So what's occurred here is that a health services establishment, which would include a medical clinic, is not permitted as of right in the C4 zone, but it is already a permitted use in other zones. So the parking calculations or the minimum parking standards, the setback requirements, all of that, those types of policies already exist in the zoning bylaw. It just is not a permitted use in the C4 zone. So the housekeeping amendment would be to add a dot next to health services establishment under the C4 zone. The parking ratios, the setbacks, everything is already established. They would still need a building permit to convert the space, which we've talked to the author of the correspondence about. So we would still review everything in association with that building permit. The property has already been used as a commercial use, and the previous unit was already, through a building permit, converted for accessibility standards. If they were to change, for example, the parking layout or add additional parking as required by the bylaw, or just because they wanted to, they would also need to go through the site plan process. But from a quick overview, it would appear that they do not need to do that because they already have parking established from previous commercial uses. So the ability to not have to draft any site-specific policies or come up with new policies for a new use makes this a lot simpler of a process than the previous discussion.
Thank you. And then just subsequent. So then the amendment then would also, it would be a blanket wide amendment to our zoning bylaws so that, for example, a dentist or an optometrist or some other medical practices like that could begin to operate or set up. Is that correct?
Yes, Katie.
Through the chair, back to member Minnings, correct. So this would be a blanket, and that's why staff suggested this to the correspondence writer. This would be a blanket economic development initiative for every health services establishment, as we call it in the bylaw. So any different medical type provider could set up in any of our C4 commercial zones, whereas right now it's just not permitted. Staff have done a little bit of research. It is common in other places. We've talked to some private sector planners who've definitely seen this. So it seems like it's perhaps just an oversight that wasn't originally in the bylaw. And of course, with the doctor recruitment initiatives the township's been supporting, staff felt this was something we could really prioritize for this example.
Yeah, and I can just add some clarification. I had asked Rebecca to contact our lead for the physician recruitment program. While that committee hasn't met yet, early indications are that there is strong support for this initiative. And we've had a mover. Do we have a seconder? Seconder, Member Taylor. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Rebecca. Have a good day. Reports from officials. Yeah, okay. G 1.1. And that's planning report 25034, request for extension of draft plan of subdivision West Shore Crescent. And will that be the director of planning? Proceed.
Thank you, Chair Brennan. So on August the 13th, Council received a delegation from Mr. Bruce Miller of Block C Developments regarding his draft approved plan of subdivision. It's 8 lots on West Shore Crescent that are proposed. And during the delegation, Mr. Miller indicated that he was applying for a 3-year extension and included the rationale to support that. And so staff were directed to bring forward the subject report, which also provides some additional background and information, and staff are recommending the 3-year endorsement to the County of Simcoe together with continued water and wastewater allocation. Thank you.
Questions? Oh, yes, Member Cox.
Yeah, I would like to support the staff recommendation, please.
Other questions? Can we have a motion, please?
Certainly, the motion reads that planning report P25-034 dated August 27th, 2025, with respect to a request for a 3-year extension of draft plan subdivision approval for 2595 West Shore Crescent, file number SVT 0706 be received, and that the Township of Severn endorse a 3-year extension of the draft plan subdivision approval, which is scheduled to lapse on September 14th, 2025, and that the provisional water and wastewater servicing allocation for this development be retained. And further, that the county of Simcoe be advised of the township's position on the extension immediately prior to ratification by council.
Moved by member Cox, seconded by member McIntyre. All in favor? Motion pass.
Good morning. So before you have a report, we're making a request for almost $58,000 to remove a large portion of the trees along the southern border of the fairgrounds. They have been severely damaged by the emerald ash borer. Most of them are dead. We've been receiving numerous calls from residents there that line their property lines that these trees are becoming a risk to their property. So staff went out and investigated it. We have almost 80 trees that need to come out along that property line, including in forested area at the end of the property where we anticipate putting a trail in at some point. So some of the trees are fairly large that have died. So they have to be craned out, so which adds to the expense, but other ones are a simple removal. So we're asking for the funding for this, that it be taken from year-end surplus. If that's not available, then we would take it from reserves to pay for this. But we'd like to get moving on this as soon as possible before we get another storm or something that causes more damage to the residents' properties.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, member Taylor.
Just a question through to Mr. Belfry. I know of property owners have had issues there and they've been in contact with you. Is there any need for any reforestation? Do we plant trees to replace these trees? And I should maybe have directed it to our chair there, but just I'd like to hear what your comments are on that.
Through the chair, we have looked at that. There would need to be some stumping in the future once that we get to that. Also, we have the Fairgrounds Master Plan coming forward, which will have some adjustments to the property. So I think at that time, any tree planting will be part of that process. So.
Member McIntyre.
Through the chair to Mr. Belfry, how many tree removal companies did your office contact for this?
Through the chair, we contacted one that we've used for significant cleanup from the ice storm. We use them a lot, so we trust their pricing on this. We felt that we needed to move fairly quickly. We have the fair coming and then and fall coming. So we wanted to get them out of there. So we're trying to move as quick as we can to get them out of there.
Just a follow-up question. Are the North Simcoe Tree Service, are they in our township?
Through the chair, yes, they are.
Thank you.
Member Jansen and then member Cox.
Thank you, through the chair to Mr. Belfry. So the blue zone, it says here that forestry mulching. Does that mean everything in that blue zone will be taken away, or is it just the brush and debris that will be removed?
Through the chair, it's just the brush and debris. There'll be still a forested area in there. We're just clearing out the dead ash out of there. So
thank you.
Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair. Sorry. I would say either Mr. Burke or the CEO, is this a practice that we'll be looking at? Because there are many dead ashes on our properties along some of our roads, and I didn't know if it was like a complaint driven, or are we looking at that? I can tell you for sure Southhorn Road has a couple of bad ones, and I just didn't know if that's something we come to you with, or are you looking at that? Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair. So, kind of interesting with the somewhat recent designation of black ash as a species at risk. So what we do is a very reactive approach. We receive a call or is found via patrol, a hazardous tree or a tree requiring assessment. The tree will get assessed, and so long as it's in a state of decay that's reasonable for the species at risk preservation, then they'll be taken down. So we're not proactively taking them down. We are actively monitoring through patrol and through service request.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I may add, just to help a little bit here. Of course, this borer is an Asian beast. We don't have good control mechanisms for it. They're trying to introduce certain wasps from Asia, but success so far in the US at least has been limited. This is a very aggressive pest. It attacks just about all ashes, white ash, green ash, black ash, and blue ash. Although I think that one is more resistant. So you do end up with a situation where you do have hazard trees, and that's always going to be a challenge. Anyone who walks Aurelia's trails, Aurelia must have spent a fortune cutting down ash trees, and it wasn't just because of the storm. Those trees are dead. I'm also familiar with some people who have gone to some treatments for this and have spent thousands, and the treatments have failed. So it's really difficult not to deal with this through tree removal. Some people might say, well, can you keep the wood and let people have it for firewood? That is a problem because that transfers the larvae all over the place. So that's why you have to go to the process here of chipping and controlling its distribution, just for what it's worth. And can we have a motion then if there's no more? Oh, sorry, you have a question. Go ahead.
Through the chair, to member McIntyre's comment, if we gave these people all that business, I'm struggling with the $58,000. We should have had a couple of quotes, Craig. I'm sorry. I can't support it the way it is. I would like to see another quote, but now that they know that it's at $58,000, and I'm looking at these trees and it looks like, I know there's some large ones, but for the most part, they're just dropping them. They're not climbing these trees. I don't feel comfortable for that amount of work that we're going to spend $58,000. I would like another quote. I know time is of the essence, but these guys are quiet now. I'm sure we could find someone very quickly, but I'd offer them 30 grand. There's all kinds of tree guys that, I just don't feel comfortable after. We still have a $1.8 million cleanup bill that we haven't even addressed, and now we're spending another $58,000. I know it needs to be done, but I would feel comfortable with another quote. I'm sorry.
Would it, I'm just wondering if we had a resolution that called for a second quote, well, you're looking for 3 quotes, a total of 3. If we were to get 3 quotes and the most reasonable, the lowest isn't always the most reasonable, we know that, but
I'll go with 2 if you want.
If I can, 30, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
We can always defer this to next week's meeting at council. Actually doesn't slow down approval in the slightest. And Mr. Belfry can see if he can get another quote between now and next week, if that's council's direction.
Yep, that seems to be the general thing. So can we go with a motion to that effect?
Okay, thank you. The motion is that the Recreation Report R25-011 dated August 27, 2025 regarding tree removal at the Coldwater Fairgrounds be received and referred to the September 3rd, 2025 council meeting. And the staff direction will be that the director obtain extra quotes between now and then.
Moved by member McIntyre, seconded by member Minnings. All in favor? Motion passes. Public Works. Report 2516 water meeting upgrades, and Tony gonna deal with that?
touch. Through the chair, Public Works is bringing this report to council for information on enhancing the water meter reading. I get the way we read water meters today. Currently, we read them quarterly. They're done by foot. A worker goes out and reads every single home. The software that we carry, the census product, it is capable of being enhanced, where we can go to a radio read from vehicles or walking through the areas. The product itself is to install at each unit was roughly $210 per unit. With a total, we'd also have to buy a couple different products, radio license, and the receivers for a total commitment of, I think it was 498,420. But again, the unit pricing would be 210 per home installed approximately. It is an American product, and I did get pricing probably about 6 months ago, so that could be altered a little bit. It's our recommendation to bring to council that we have different financial considerations on providing this cost to the customers. We can provide it on a quarterly basis or into the 2025 water rates, so that would alleviate some cost to homeowners.
Thank you. Questions? Yes. Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair, to Tony, I'm assuming we did look for Canadian products? Or is there anyone that does this?
Through the chair, the census is a product that we use already, and all our software is census, and the water meters that we use are census.
Okay.
So it'd be very expensive to switch out to.
And the other one is, I quite like the idea of gradually over a 5-year period. And the best part of it I like is this would significantly improve customer service by allowing early detection of potential plumbing issues, reducing the likelihood of high consumption bills going unnoticed. And that has been a bee in our bonnet for quite a few years. So I think that's fabulous. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member Taylor.
Through the chair to Tony. So the long-term goal, will the users see their usage more frequently than they are every quarter?
Through the chair, correct. We can monitor it daily, depending on staffing, weekly. It's basically, we're just driving around the neighborhoods and it's picking up the data, and we'll strategically put these boxes in probably work trucks. And as they're working in the areas doing their rounds, they're grabbing the information every single day. Again, it is, the starting enhancement, you can progress into what tower systems where it's reading all the time, but we can do that down the road also to add on to the system.
Yeah, just to follow up, I actually was speaking to someone in AMO last week, and they're saying that even if there's a leaky toilet, and they say that's the biggest one, that it'll do a blip there, and they'll know, you'll know right away that it's abnormal. It's up 1,000%. But I'm just questioning, we still have to physically go out and drive by the home on this. It's not like you say, to go further, we need a tower. So my question again is, what do you forecast? Just when will the consumers see what their usage is with the new technology there?
Through the chair, we would recommend weekly.
Again?
Through the chair, we would recommend weekly.
I think, as the deputy mayor is saying, yeah, the more information, real-time information is what's missing now, not 3 months later. But I certainly support it.
And
Thank
also
you.
through the chair, that depends on staffing inside too, because Julie deals with this.
Yeah.
So she's the one that retrieves information. So it's how much time she has to, right?
Member Burkett and then Member Minnings.
Thank you, through the chair, and thank you, Tony, for bringing this forward. We looked at this 10 years ago, and we didn't move forward with it because of the cost. It was $400,000 10 years ago, so it really hasn't increased much. But to Member Taylor's comments, it's what we need. Like, we can't have people using water, more and more water. And then you're taking staff time now to go around each house to try and collect that data and just give it back to them in 3 months. So I'm fully supportive of this. Thank you.
And through chair, we also have savings in it because we outsource the reading right now. So we will not be outsourcing reading anymore. So we do financially save on that.
Member Minnings?
Hi, thank you through the chair to Tony. Thanks for bringing this forward. Question on what I heard you say that you would be able to drive around with boxes to retrieve information. Did I hear that right? Is this something homeowners won't be able to monitor their water usage themselves?
Through the chair, no, homeowners would not be able to monitor it. This would be strictly the township monitoring it.
Okay, thank you. So I do have a concern with that because I'm not sure that it's solving a problem, and you also mentioned then staff would have to read this. So I'm just not 100% clear on the efficiency for the homeowner. So just a statement. My other question though may be for the clerk perhaps, or maybe for you. I recall this council having a discussion about water bills, water usage, in light of leaky toilets and people having tens of thousands of dollars of water expense that they weren't aware of. So I don't know that this is solving a problem for the homeowner, but having said that about a prior discussion, I do remember bringing forward a motion that water bills be moved from the current 4 times a year to 6 times a year, which is every other month, so that if there was something that the homeowners weren't aware of, they wouldn't be waiting 3, almost 4 months before they knew about it.
Thank you. Yes, Director of Public Works?
Thank you through the chair. So to address a couple of the questions there, the software does provide a portal. Now we have not explored that in full. We do have the software, but we don't have the automatic reading. So it wouldn't make it wouldn't be as useful. But as part of their customer service package, similar to how Aurelia operates right now, because they got the exact same system basically, you can log in and you can see your water usage at your own purview. You know, a customer could log in and see that. You can also set up for reminders or notifications. As you noted, there's let's say a threshold of 500% you'd like to be notified. Those are services that exist in the software. What we're talking about today is getting that raw data from this meters into the software so that it can provide those kinds of levels of service. So it does truly give the customer better access to their usage. I don't think the billing cycle will change much because the customer will know their usage pretty much anytime they'd like. And the driving around is really just a capture of the data. There's different ways to deal with that, but we do cover pretty much every corner of the serviced areas anyway, on a couple of days basis. So the data will be almost live. There are features where you can get towers and get truly live, but this usually satisfies, a community our size, is to have the pucks just drive around in the patterns of the areas and collect the data. We'll even be notified if we've missed an area within the certain time frame using the software. So,
sorry. So subsequent. So can you address Did I remember correctly about we were going to increase our water bills to 6 per year from 4 from the current 4?
Yes.
Through Mr.
Madam
Chair,
Clerk?
that is on the staff abeyance list to bring a report back to council on. So it's on the Director of Finance's to-do list.
Thank you. And then just one final question to Mr. Burke based on what you just said. So I can now log on to find out what my water usage is. You said that software is already available. If that's correct, are you able to put that on the website, etc.? I don't know how I would do that.
So through the chair, just what I said was that the software, the package that Census provides has customer service features. Now, we don't activate them. We haven't purchased them. There's not a portal for you currently today to log in and see that. But as we move forward with a project like this and you get that raw data, you now open up a large improvement in customer service access to that data.
Madam CAO, you have a question as well?
Thank you. I was just going to speak to the 6 times a year. We will be considering that in our rate study, but it's a resourcing constraint, right? The water bills, particularly right now, maybe when we go to the new system, it will be much easier. But right now, water bills are quite labor intensive to do, which is why we only do it quarterly. So it's on our list, but it does come with some resources. So probably better to implement Derek's system first and make the process easier, and then we could look at moving to the 6 times a year.
Member McIntyre.
Thank you through the chair to Tony. I just have a comment, Tony. In your background comment, you say, while the system functions well, and it puzzles me why we're moving on to another system if the system functions well. However, I understand leaks and water consumption rates get out of gear sometimes, because we have seen that at this council table before, where we've had to examine water meters and had them taken out and had them looked at and so on, and thousands of dollars. But I'm a little puzzled why, while the system functions well. Okay, either one, please.
Yes, Madam CEO.
Through the chair, I think it's about progress and efficiencies to improve our processes. It works fine, but somebody drives around the township with a wand. That's pretty old school. As the mayor said, we looked at it 10 years ago and didn't do it, but the world has moved on, and that's not typically how things are done anymore. And at some point, the wands won't work and we won't be able to find anybody to drive around and use them. So I think we have to get with the program and go to the next step. The director probably would have answered that much more nicely, but I think that's the gist.
Yes, Tony.
Also, this helps our health and safety. We've had numerous people hurt reading meters. You have to climb snowbanks, go in the ice, deal with the dogs, go in the backyards. So, we don't have to do that no more. So that would be very nice.
Good point. Yes, Member Burkett.
Thank you through the chair. Derek, thank you very much. So if council approves this, how long before we can, will it get phased in? Is it just curious?
Thank you. And through the chairs, so projects specifically in the water and wastewater side are very driven and supported by water rates. So that's why we do our water rates adjustments and setting, a whole 10-year plan of what we're going to do, and that creates the rate. So that's why we brought it here today, was to, one, digest what kind of customer service improvements we could see, how much that would cost. But the motion today is actually just to simply consider it as part of the rate study. So later this year, when we get the rate study, the rate will be higher, and a big part of that higher is going to be a customer service improvement like this project. So we don't envision this being like a capital project even in 2026 until we have the rates finalized and we know that rates can pay for this project.
Supplementary, if I may, through the chair. So I'm struggling with that then, Derek. I understand that the weight, like what you said, but now we're going to put a burden, a larger burden on the residents that are using the water system that we have. So they're going to have to pay for this. Is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair. That's what so if we include it in the rate study, instead of, I think we're at 3.5% increase and 3% increase, something like that per year. It might be higher than that. It might be at 5% per year increase for the next 5 years as part of the rate study. And a chunk of that is paying for this new service.
Okay.
Yes, Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Derek. Do we not have a capital reserve fund with our utilities that we could pull that from, just due to the it's something to look at so our rates don't hurt people. I'm not on it, so I can say this with all freedom of, can we look at another way to fund this capital project that would not be prohibitive to some people for paying bills and things with the way the economy is right now?
So through the chair and just sort of in closing probably is, I think the water rate study is going to really open up what the reserves are, what they're allocated for. You know, we have these very long-term plans to replace infrastructure that has a long service life. And so you really don't want to take I would say a customer service or sort of an operating expense and try to put that into sort of your draw from your reserves. But the rate study, like today's decision really is this, that you'll see this project firmly in the rate study as a direction of council.
Just a supplemental, I'm sorry, I perceive this as buying equipment and putting it in people's houses, so I perceive it as a capital expenditure, not customer service operating. Thank you.
Member Burkett?
Thank you through the chair. Not to dwell on this, but I think this is a great item at budget for Andrew to talk to all of us based on what we received yesterday, the $7.8 million. And maybe there's a way we can use it, but I don't want you to answer it now, Andrew. We'll wait till budget and we'll see where it can go. Thank you.
Madam CEO?
Sorry, through the chair, I just wanted to clarify. It's not a budget item, it's a rate study item because it's not, and we can't use the grant to fund water meters. It was a very specific project that we have to fund.
Yes, Member Minnings?
Thank you through the chair. I agree with the deputy mayor. People are hurting financially, and I'm a bit concerned with the percentage increases that Director Burke just mentioned, 3.5 and 3, and then whatever cost this is. We have to be fiscally responsible, and with 7 water treatment plants across this township and the cost of water reaching the $2,000 mark, whether you use it or not, the timing is wrong. And there are too many things that we still don't get with this enhancement or purchase or whatever you want to call it that's come forward today. I still can't read meters. I still don't have access to find out any information. And so no, I would just say if you find some money, if there's some grants or something available, but I would agree it's a capital cost, and we need to stop adding money to people's water bills.
Yeah, let's repeat again. This is not a budget discussion. This is a study discussion. And unless we have more questions, I'd like to see a motion.
Hey, the motion reads the Public Works Report number W25-016 dated August 27th, 2025. With respect to water meter upgrades be received, and further that staff be directed to include smart meter project into the 2025 rate study report for future consideration.
May I ask for a recorded vote, please?
Sure. We have a mover. Moved by Member Cox, seconder. Member Taylor. All right, recorded vote. Member Taylor.
Oh, this is me.
Oh, sorry. You can have that.
Thank you. So recorded vote requested by Member Minnings. Member Minnings, for or against?
Against.
Member Burkett, for or against?
For.
Member McIntyre, for or against?
For.
Member Cox, for or against?
For.
Member Brennan, for or against?
For.
Member Jansen, for or against?
For.
Member Taylor, for or against? Okay, motion carried 6-1.
Thank you. I think maybe it's a good time to take a bio break, 5 minutes. Yep.
I met him there. He's
All right, are we set? We are set. Oh,
Yeah. You want to bring that forward?
Yeah.
Wanda, 2 minutes. Come on down. Now, don't be going after the new 50 time zone. All right, everyone's here. Thank you. Next item, is the Public Works Report 2518 Servicing Allocation Policy. No, wait. Oh, speed limits. Oh, I missed one. Sorry. G 3.2 Public Works Report W 2519 speed limits. And I take it that's,
Excuse me.
yes. You have a question already?
I was just going to go through the chair. Just wanted to speak to it. I just want to thank Alex and Derek for bringing this forward. I can't speak for Boyd Road. I'll let member McIntyre speak, but Agnew Road, I think there's about 48 homes now on Agnew. And what I see are the amount of people walking, cycling, and it is a busy road, and fully supportive of reducing it to 50. And further to that, Grass Lake line from Agnew to the highway is 50, and South Sparrow Lake Road is 50, and Agnew is in between the two. So fully supportive of that. I am not in support of dropping Foxmead to 60, though. I would like to leave it at 80 kilometers an hour, and just my comments. Thank you.
Proceed.
So through the chair, yeah, so to introduce the report, we went through 3 locations, 2 of which are design related. So the Agnew Road one was a recommendation from our engineering team at Triton Engineering to make that a 50 to comply with the horizontal and vertical alignments that are there today. The same is at Foxmead. So the Foxmead reduction really stems from a RJ Burnside design at the Purbrook Creek crossing for the bridge that we did a rehabilitation on last year. The review of the horizontal alignments and vertical alignments indicated that the posted speed limit, or the design speed rather, should be a 60. And we found that a very short section of unposted between those 2 zones, because the remainder of Foxmead is already 60 and drops to 50 over by town line, that the Ontario Traffic Manual really prefers and recommends continuity in posted speed limits. So having a varied zone less than 1.5 kilometers in length is not recommended. And that's why we were recommending a full drop to 60 from Burnside line over to the existing 60 location.
Thank you. Yes, Member Cox.
So the speed limit from Burns through the chair to whoever, anyway, that the speed limit from Burnside to Bockwell is not set. So it's 80. No, that's right, because it's a road with pavement and there's no signs. So after Bockwell, it's 60, and then it goes to 50. So this doesn't make sense to me, that you want it to go between Burnside and 60 east of town line, because it's already posted at 60. But it doesn't matter, because I don't agree to the 60 between Burnside and Bockwell. There's not a lot of houses on there. And I'm going to speak to it again, because I spoke to it when we did the Bockwell line. When we first started to pave roads in the township, the idea of Mount Stephen, Bockwell, Foxmead, Burnside, Cambrian was all a north-south route for people. We, and I don't imagine we wanted to go 100 or anything, but the whole point of the matter is, and we also discussed the fact that when it was brought forward that we didn't want to do all the rural roads to 60, we were quite happy with the ones that we just would post. And I'm finding very knee-jerk, and I understand that we've done our data here, but there are very many ones that we knee-jerk on, and we listen to, especially the Bockwell, when we had 1 complaint or 2 complaints. And then we have all these signs that say 60 on it that I hear complaints about. But I just think that Foxmead, between Burnside and Bockwell, there might be 4 houses. And so it's not a walking road. It's not it's a busy road, but it definitely has not a lot of houses on it. So I can't do that one, but I can live with the rest. Thank you.
Yeah, Member Taylor, then Member McIntyre.
Yeah, I support what's been said there. I'd like to leave fox meat at 80. In addition to that, it was in December of last year that we changed Bockwell right from fox meat right down to Mount Stephen to 60. I've never seen so many 60 speeding signs on there, but I would like to have that one reconsidered to go back to 80, to be honest. So I don't know if I'm out of line to ask for that here, or do I put a separate, that was, when I looked at the Blockpole line one, it was one complaint. It was like a knee-jerk reaction, and we changed it. And I think I was not really paying attention that it goes to the full length there, and I think it's uncalled for on that stretch of road. So with the thing at hand here, I want to keep Foxmead at 80 and then reconsider Bockwell.
Madam Clerk, and then
Thank you. Before the Director of Public Works chimes in on the general piece on Bockwell, for a request for reconsideration, you'd have to have a motion passed by council to consider the reconsideration first as a separate item on a future date, and then bring it forward. Typically, we do not reconsider stuff within 1 year of its prior decision without that supermajority of council. So,
Well, but could I request that goes on next council meeting?
if you'd like to do a member's report to put on the agenda, then I'd be happy to facilitate that with you.
Okay, well, and something for me?
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, Member McIntyre and then Member Jansen.
Thank you. Through the chair. We had a long drive to Ottawa to Amo and saw multiple townships with 70-kilometer signs. I'm here again saying I think that 70 kilometers on some of these roads would not be wrong. In terms of Boyd Road, there are 4 houses on Boyd Road. 60 would take you forever to go that mile and a bit on that road. I don't see 60 as viable. 70 would be lovely, but I would be, if we're not going to play with 70, I think 80 is the limit on Boyd Road. It's 60 is too slow for 4 houses, and there's one house has 2 pre-teens that are functional without having to worry about them running. And you got a railroad track, slows people down. So I'm not in favor of 60 on that stretch, and 70 would be nice.
Member Jansen.
Thank you. I think Agnew Road, for the reasons that Mayor Burkett stated, would be appropriate to have a 50 kilometer. However, Boyd Road, the study shows that people aren't even driving the posted 80 now. I think keeping it 80 is fine, and I'm not in favor of changing Foxmead or lowering the speed on Foxmead. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Director Burke.
Through the chair. So just maybe a reminder, in the speed limit review policy that we adopted and is quite commonly adopted throughout most municipalities in Ontario and Canada, the guide says that basically in most instances, a local roadway is 60 kilometers an hour max. And so we need we should look at a fundamental change to the way we review posted speed limits. And it would caution that a variance from sort of the industry acceptable standard does add some potential liability to the municipality in a claims defense position. So there are some circumstances, like in Ramera, for instance, they have adopted 60 kilometers an hour in any location where it's unposted. That is township wide, and that is a stance that Ramera has taken. And that aligns with the Transportation Association of Canada's guide to posted speed limits. So what we should look at is we can take this direction today, but I think staff should report back on a fundamental change to how we review speed limits and that policy if this is the direction today.
No further questions? Wow. Okay. It looks like there's general acceptance on at least one of the 3. And I'm not sure what the best motion would be.
Still don't put it in, reconsider it.
for reconsideration. Oh, yes. Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Burke. I understand where you're coming from, but it seems to me that most of our issues have come from complaints of speeding, and that's why in areas we are putting in the automated speed enforcement. And I can understand that because those are highly populated and they're school zones. I get that. But when we're talking about commuter roads and people going and no high complaints, I don't understand why we do it, because no offense, you can put all the 60s you want on a road and they're still going to drive 80 and they may even drive 90. And there probably aren't a lot of policemen out there. And if there are, and somebody complains, we have now wasted someone's time when we know it's a commuter road. That's only my opinion. But I understand that we react to speeding issues. And I myself have had no speeding issues with Foxmead. The only issues I've ever had complaints was the potholes. And we fixed the potholes, and we knew when the potholes were fixed that it would go. And I've told many people that when they say to me, I don't want potholes on my street, or I don't want potholes on my road. And I say to them, well, then you're going to have some people who are going to go fast because now our little speed bumps aren't there anymore. And I have not had any complaints about Foxmead and speeding. So as far as I'm concerned, no news is good news. Thank you.
Madam CEO.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think if I could combine what the director said with what Member Cox said, you're absolutely right. People are going to go what they're going to go. But setting the speed limits based on the data puts the liability on the people driving, not the township. So if you start varying from what the data tells you and what the TAC tells you, then if something happens to somebody going 90, it's then going to be our liability and not theirs. So I don't know if changing the speed limit, we know doesn't change driver behavior. It just limits our liability.
Yeah. Member Cox.
So supplemental. So if we put the speed limit to 60, somebody goes 90 and something happens, does that mean that we don't get sued for as much as we would if it was 80? You see where I'm going? I'm not understanding what you're saying, because a speeding is speeding, whether it's 60, 70, and you're doing over the speed limit, you're speeding. And if we have ours set at a certain speed, if it's set at 60 and someone gets hurt at 90, does that mean that we're lower liability than if we had it at 80? This is where I'm not understanding it, because people are going to speed.
Madam CEO.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is yes. I mean, every case is different, and we're always going to get sued because people will say there's a bump in the road, or we didn't, it's too smooth, or whatever. But the onus will be higher on the individual because they're speeding so much. If we've said the road is 60, then they should be going 60.
Yeah. If I may add, I obviously don't have the same experience as some members here. When they moved the Division Road to Walmart speed on Utah to 80, there was a significant change in driver behavior. And I've had basically no significant complaints on that section since that change. So driver behavior, in my opinion, is affected by the speed limit. That's what I see anecdotally. And does the clerk have an innovative, because I'm a little lost here as to what the resolution should be.
If I can just ask council for some direction. So clear direction that council wants to proceed with the reduction on Agnew. Concurrence. Okay, direction then that council does not want to proceed with Foxmead.
Seems to
Looking
be.
for concurrence. So does council want to proceed with Foxmead or not?
We'll leave it the way
I'm
it
just
is.
trying to craft you a motion, so,
Leave it the way it is.
okay, and Boyd Road,
Leave it
any
the way it
reduction
is.
there? Okay, but part of that is do you want the policy brought back for review? Or do you just want to keep proceeding forward? I'm going to the director's perspective, where he's evaluating stuff to the policy when he gets requests, so.
The policy, I think, is 60 kilometers across the whole township. Is that not correct there?
No, I don't
So
think.
through the chair, council through policy has adopted or accepted a published standard. So I think because we've currently, these two recommendations here follow that, and council has decided not to take those recommendations, I think a review of the policy
Is appropriate.
is appropriate.
Which is fine.
Yes.
Through the chair, and I understand, Derek, the policy that, through the chair, sorry, the policy you're speaking to, but we live in a rural community. Does that policy in that book that you keep quoting, it's a standard by the province? Does it include rural roads like what we have, not only in our municipality, throughout Ontario? Like, I'm not sure how they come up with this policy.
Director.
Sorry, I'll let Derek go first and then.
Okay, Derek.
So I think, so the policy is Canadian policy. So that's coast to coast to coast. And it was developed by a team of engineers and municipal and provincial stakeholders. And so that sets the policy. It has a chart, and we simply follow the chart, right? The chart gives us the road type, what kind of obstructions might be on the roadway, and it gives you a guide on what the posted speed limit is. The biggest challenge here is that once we want to post a speed limit, we've told ourselves that we're going to refer to that policy to be consistent throughout Canada. And that's where these recommendations are coming from. There is a second completely different opportunity in the Highway Traffic Act, which is this no posted, right? In our rural sections of our roadways, there is no requirement to post at all the speed limit. Right. But we consistently get speed limit review requests, and we've said we would simply take a review request and apply it against the tables. The tables spit out often 60. And so that's the challenge. If we want to fundamentally change the way we review, or perhaps we just say, sorry, we don't post any of our roadways in the rural sections. These are the roadways that are unposted, and that's it. You decide how fast you want to go, up to 80.
Supplementary, if I may. That's an interesting take on this whole thing. So Madam CAO's comments about liability. So if we're not mandated by anyone to post any roads, why are we posting them? And how are we going to get sued? So you've just opened a whole Pandora's box for me.
Madam CEO.
Yeah, I would really recommend that council look at your policy. So what the director is saying is you have a policy and now you're breaking it. So that increases your liability. Your policy can be, we follow the TAC guidelines, except if they are very rural roads or whatever the criteria is, but make some criteria that you're following. Just willy-nilly making individual decisions makes you more at risk for those decisions. So if you want your policy to be different, absolutely make the policy different, but don't just make decisions not based on something.
Yeah, through the chair to Derek, all I'm saying is common sense should prevail. And for someone from Ward 1 to get across to here, we're putting a burden on people want to obey the rules, and it's 80 kilometers. Now, this person's going to be penalized. It's going to have the law-abiding person. It's going to take forever to get across the township. So I'm saying common sense. If we're afraid of being sued all the time, then we have to be common sense here. So I would go back. I think Allison's got the three roads identified here, and then maybe we do, as Derek says, review the policy that we make it that common sense prevail in there somewhere.
Member Cox, then Member Minnings.
Yeah, through the chair. That's a whole new perspective of, I've never been told that about the rural roads and what we can look at. So I would definitely want to do that and look at that, because it, as Member Taylor says, it is common sense, and I've never known that we could do that. And I don't feel that we do it inadvertently all over the place. We just look at it as common sense. And I will say that Boyd Road is the only one we actually got the data on, right?
72.
Yeah. So it looks like, as Member Jansen said, it wasn't a big thing. So I feel that it's sometimes we do things because we're concerned, but I do think that in most cases common sense prevails, especially on our rural roads. Thank you.
Member Minnings.
Thank you through the chair. I guess this question is for those who were at the recent OPP board meeting last week. And I do believe there was a discussion about the speed on Foxmead Road. Do I have that road correct or not? And if that was Foxmead Road, including one of the OPP officers who's on facilitating that discussion, said he cycles or lives on Foxmead and would like to see that speed reduced. So I too I have some questions about just the process, and I would take the CEO's advice and look at an all-over policy amendment if that's the direction we're going on, and perhaps for the sake of this motion, just exclude Foxmead from the motion at this point, rather than say yes or no to it, but just that would have to come back.
Thank you.
Sorry, just through the chair. So when that policy comes back, Derek, will it have in it, for example, like I still can't wrap my head around Grass Lake line from Agnew to the Highway 50. Had no idea, it was never posted. And another one I struggle with is Carleon down here from Brody to Division Road, why it's 50. So will that be part of that policy report? Like, are those things we're going to look at as to how we arrived at those speed limits?
Yeah, I think through the chair, the overall throughout the entire township has been a mixed bag of decisions over 30 years, right? So there's been decisions, they usually start from a complaint, and then it's whether at one time, and I was here, I don't know, eight or so years ago, where we didn't have even a review process. Council sort of just chose what the posted speed limit was for a particular stretch or roadway, and that was final. And I think it is very, inconsistent where some are posted 50 and they certainly could accommodate more. And some are posted, 50 in a very, very short stretch, probably for one or two residents that lived in the front of that stretch, but it's too short, for how long the zone should be for consistency throughout the province. And I think it is fair to say that, we could bring back a report that looks at the whole network, what it's currently posted at, where we think it's probably not the best, and then also look at, our rural section doesn't have to be treated the same as our more urban and our higher density locations. We've chosen a difference in the transportation master plan that some roads are designated rural and some roads are designated semi-urban or urban, and how those would change the road's characteristics. So I think that would be a good report to bring back, since I'm seeing some change in the way we've sort of applied posted speed limits in the past.
Supplementary, if I may, through the chair. And thank you, Derek, because we sitting here at this table out in the community, I've got nothing to go back on to say, hey, I can't do that. But I think the policy that you're looking at bringing to council, that will give us a guideline to say, well, it doesn't meet this, it doesn't meet this criteria, so we're not going to go to that speed. Because as it stands today, there's really no rebuttal that I have if somebody comes to us and I look to Member Taylor in Balkwell. I can't remember why we reduced it to 60, but to his point, one person. So that
Who's left?
Yeah. So that what did you call it? That policy, I think, will help us as a council when we talk to the residents. And now we have something to stand on to say, hey, listen, this is the criteria that you need to meet. And this is what needs to happen before we actually bring it to council and make that decision. Waste your time, waste our time, and waste their time. So thank you for that.
Madam CEO.
Thank you. I think a policy review is a great idea and a holistic one, because we have done it in a patchwork. I just want council to be thinking about the policy is super important. And when we review it, make sure you're comfortable, because you do have a policy right now and we're trying to follow it. I'm honestly finding this whole discussion confusing, because mostly when residents ask to the speed to be reduced, you say yes, whether it fits the policy or not. So all we hear is speeding, reduced. And now I'm hearing the opposite. So I think for staff, we need the policy, but then we need council to be consistent with it. it. Like that's why I was saying today, like, don't just willy-nilly change the policy or change the speed limits, because right now the policy says, based on these guidelines that you've adopted, this is the speed. So change the policy, but then please follow it. So then we don't have to continue to have these discussions and you're not making the knee-jerk reactions to a complaint, because that makes it hard on the staff side.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just want to add, if we're departing from standards or increasing liability, I have concerns. So I'm going to keep an open mind. I don't know these roads. I don't drive them. I just know my neck of the woods. But I find it hard to believe that if we don't post, it's like a freeway in Italy. I understand provincially that the defaults when things aren't posted are 50 and 80. Okay, so yeah. So I don't know. That's just not clear enough for me. I need more. So thank God if you can't learn how to drive. Just my view. Can we have a motion, please?
Thank you. Okay, so based on the discussion, the motion will read that Public Works Report number W25-019 dated August 27th, 2025, with respect to a speed limit reviews be received, and further that the speed limit on Agnew Road between Highway 11 and South Sparrow Lake Road be set and posted at 50 kilometers an hour, and further that the speed limit review policy be brought back for review.
Mover, please. Moved by Member Paquette, seconded by Member Taylor. All in favor? Motion is passed.
Sorry, did we lose our audio?
Hello?
Wanda, can you hear us?
Yeah, we're on G33.
Yeah, no, the audio wasn't coming through. Sorry.
Sorry about that. We're back on. Okay, Director Burke.
Thank you. And through the chair. So this report is an expansion of the policy that we created, I believe, in 2019 to manage the allocation of services in our developing communities. And it's a pretty critical one for us because both our wastewater treatment plants in Coldwater and West Shore are nearing the end of their available capacity. So that's why we created this policy in the first place. A couple of basic principles. It's a first come, first serve policy. So if you're ready to develop and there's capacity, that you'll get that capacity. And then new in this rendition is the change from a policy framework to a bylaw. The bylaw is going to help address the potential concerns with accessory units that now have some as of right. And I think Andrea can maybe explain that a bit later. But long story short, we don't have a great control over how many new users we would be seeing, which would deplete the allocation of services. And so I think we've summarized the main changes here. There's another new consideration in this policy that's not in the last one. That is a cap. So a cap of 95% of the available capacity in each one of our systems and their subsystems. So let's say a sewage pumping station on Wood Avenue is quite small. We can allocate its capacity to 95% of its capacity, but we reserve a small buffer. And each area may have limitations, even aggregated within the community, depending on its available capacity for the catchment area, for the pressure zone, or for the water service. So that's new. And one last reserve that's new is this ARU reserve. And we've come up with this plan to address, a lot of infill. You'd have one lot that you could create an accessory unit, and that's a great news and fast development strategy that the province obviously is sort of supporting. But we may have already allocated all of our available capacity to one giant development that's not moving yet. And so we wanted to take 5% of each year's available capacity and reserve that for infill. So those are the new rules that we're looking at. And Andrea and I and Anthony are here for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Yeah. Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair. Oh, sorry. When you were talking about the policy, changing it to a bylaw, something just went through my head, which refers back to what we were just talking about. This is where it comes really hard for us when you're talking about policies, and this is our policy. So the last one we had, if there is a way, and I don't know, just to think about it, is there a way that when you do a report like on the speeding and in the future on any reserve allocation, surfacing allocation policies, that when you do a report, is there a small summary of the policy that's simplified that could go in? So I know that I'm breaking a policy, or I know what I'm talking about when I do it. And like, no offense, like when you're talking that we didn't follow this rule or that rule, sometimes I'm kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know what the policy, but would that be a hard thing to say, that according to our policy, here's sort of a summary, and this is why we went this way? I mean, I see the data numbers are all lovely, but no offense, that I'm not good on all those, but I just, where I'm going on this. So in the future, if we could have some little added to a report, just underneath it as an appendix or something that says, here's an overview. So if somebody came and we wanted to, we could say, no, our allocation threshold is 95%, and then we would know when we read that report that this was where it was going. So we don't come here and make it look like we're on opposite sides. It was kind of going together, but at least we have an idea what we're doing. Thank you.
Just through the chair, I think a real easy solution to that, and we can definitely do this going forward, is in the bottom of every staff report, it says, reports related to this. I'm gonna just put a link to the last report that was in the policy.
Do we have, yes, Member Minnings?
I thank you through the chair to Director Burke. So overall, I do support what's in the report, but my question comes from holding approved, I guess, links or abilities to hook up to water systems. So for example, the small 8-lot subdivision that we gave an extension of 3 years to earlier today, for example, is that a guarantee for those 8 lots that in 3 years that you're holding enough capacity in the West Shore Treatment Center for them to hook up? So that's what I'm just not sure. What guarantee are we giving approved subdivisions and subdivisions that get extensions?
Yeah, that's an excellent example to kind of showcase how the system works. So at draft plan, that's when the planning department has, been satisfied, I suppose, with the lot creation idea, and maybe not all the development details have been hammered out entirely. You get something called provisional allocation. And so provisional allocation indicates to the Public Works Department that we know this is coming, but it's more or less just a fictitious number. We take it off of the total at the reporting stage. We do our annual report, but it's not guaranteed. What is guaranteed is when you move into a subdividers agreement or any, like a consent application, something formal with the municipality in terms of development rights, then you get final allocation. And final allocation means that we'll never give it to anyone else. You have it, that's yours. It will be saved for you. Right now it's 3 years, which is kind of in line with the development agreements, right? We do subdividers agreements in 3-year blips. And that guarantees so that a developer can then invest in the infrastructure and the cost to develop those lands and know he can pull a building permit at the time of when they need to. And so those are the differences between the final allocation and provisional. And right now on West Shore Crescent, they haven't actually executed a subdividers agreement. And so their allocation is in provisional status.
No more questions? Seeing none, may we have a motion?
Certainly, the motion reads that Public Works Report W25-018 dated August 28th, 2025, with respect to servicing allocation policy be received, and further that the draft bylaw be forwarded to council for adoption.
Mover? Moved by Member Minnings, seconded by Member Burkett. All in favor? Motion's Now, G34, Public Works Report 2520, Winter Control Level of Service. And Director Burke?
Thank you very much through the chair. Last one I promise, I think, for the Public Works Department. So this one here is each summer we try to look at the winter control operations and see if there's some efficiencies or some change for improvement to the level of service. And this year we didn't find too much because last year went pretty good, but we are making a recommendation to foresee the completion of the installation of our call them smart but more digital based spreader controllers. And that captures fairly accurate data on salt usage and where that salt application has happened. Great for reporting back to Environment Canada and SSEA, and gives us better material management capability. And so that's Ace Electronics as a supplier. We've tried 4 of them last year. They worked really well. And so now we're comfortable with fitting out the rest of the fleet. The other request here or consideration is the purchase and installation of a sander for our medium duty plow truck. And this is in combination with creating alongside the facilities group a bit more of a parking lot crew or a facilities crew that will get to some of those parking lots like the fire halls and the community centers, our wastewater treatment facilities earlier in the day than, sometimes 11 or 12 p.m., 11 o'clock in the morning to 12 p.m. And so that's quite late for arrivals and stuff like that. So we're looking to increase our capability on that front. And one last one here is to consider a expression of interest, which is a non-contractual basis request to a contractor or set of contractors to look at converting our afternoon fleet, which is the 4 seasonal staff that we have do the priorities between 3 p.m. and 11, to a full contracted service. A couple of major benefits here that were expressed last year that we said we would look at for the following year is, better redundancy and staff availability. The contractor brings a larger pool of staff than having our regular 4 seasonal. The equipment, they bring additional equipment. So there'll be downtime coverage and things like that. And also supervisory, right? So the level of supervision in the afternoons is then transferred to the contractor. So there's a number of benefits to this model, but we don't have enough information to make a recommendation to council yet on a budgetary figure. So we wanted to go out and ask and look at the provisions, the terms, the costs and things like that before we made a contract.
Thank you. Questions from? Yes, Member Taylor.
So that would be sort of a first for us, Derek, to subcontract out work that was normally done by township staff, even though the afternoon shift is new. So that would be, would we affect any full-time positions if in this scenario?
Yeah, through the chair, that's right. The 4 afternoon shift that we've had for about 3 years now, I think we only added the 2 new positions last year to bring it up to 4 full routes. That is all seasonal staff. And so, yeah, you're right. It does not affect full-time employees here, but it would be the first for Severn to be moving to a contracted basis for a portion of the winter control services.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just supplemental comment, just that when everything is in the township's control, it's controlled better. And if we're relying on a third party, then I think we have to be careful on this one to make sure that we don't lose our control and flexibility. And with the additional crew last year with the major snowstorm, I think you did a great job there, and just want to tread lightly on the next steps.
No further questions? Can we please have a motion?
Certainly. The motion reads that Public Works Report W25-020 dated August 27, 2025, with respect to winter control level of service be received, and further that the single source purchase and installation of 6 Ace Electronics spreader controllers be approved in the amount not to exceed $50,000 and be funded from the Fleet and Equipment Replacement Reserve Fund. And further that the purchase and installation of a sander for the medium duty plow truck in the amount not to exceed $15,000 be approved and funded from the Fleet and Equipment Replacement Reserve Fund. And further, that staff be directed to release a request for expression of interest for contracted winter control services for 2026-2027 season. And further, that the hiring of 2 additional seasonal staff to support facility parking lot maintenance during the 2025-2026 season be approved and funded from the 2025 winter control operating budget. And further, that service level enhancements be referred to the 2026 budget deliberations for consideration.
What she said.
Yeah.
Can we have a mover, please? Moved by member Cox. I need a seconder by member Minnings. All in favor? Somehow you got that. I don't know if any of us know what that was. Thank you. All right, moving on to even more exciting things. Administration G 4.1. Report 2526, new council procedural bylaw. And I take it Madam Clerk is going to deal with that?
Sorry, I don't know if your microphone's on.
Sorry, I forgot my microphone. Apologies, counselors. So going back to Rose, this is the first full comprehensive review and rewrite of the procedural bylaw in my time at Severn. So as a starting point, I looked at what are the general housekeeping updates that need to be that should be undertaken, and a recommendation on a change in structure as to how council and committee meetings operate. So since over the last couple of years, we have the new strong mayor powers, which fundamentally have changed how council and committee could and should maybe operate. We have various, like I said, housekeeping updates that are in there. The goal of this is to try and make the bylaw easier to work with, improve clarity and definitions, enhance transparency, particularly with consent lists. So I don't know how many times I get called by members of the public after a meeting going, okay, my item is on consent list, but there's no real motion other than that the consent list be adopted. So how do I know what the direction is? And they do receive letters from me after the meeting. But before the meeting, it's hard to know what that implied direction is going to be if they were seeking it out. So things like that. And then a recommendation for a change in practice going from what we have now, which is a standing committee system, to a council committee of the whole system. Council committee of the whole is a system you see in various formats at the county of Simcoe, Midland, Innisfil, a couple other county municipalities, and generally across the province is now the push in direction that quite a few are going to. It's important to note, and I'll get into this in a bit, this doesn't negate council having advisory committees. Council can continue to have advisory committees. We will still have committee of adjustment. We'll still have property standards committee. We'll still have accessibility advisory committees. It means that we would no longer have general committees such as today's or planning and development committee. I'll get into that meeting. And since the last update, live streaming 5 years ago, most municipalities did not live stream their meetings outside of the big cities, right? So this is something that has generally become a practice as a result of COVID that is much more standardized. So it's amazing how the world has changed in the last 5 years as a result of the innovations that happened during that time, and just bringing that more into general practice and procedure language than the reactionary clauses that we put in during that pandemic. So there are various new definitions. The bylaw is not small, so I'm not going to go through it page by page. But there are new definitions in here specifically related to strong mayor powers. You will see in there tables that now show if there's a difference between a recorded vote and a strong mayor vote and a veto vote, how many are required. So those details are in there now that were not there before. One thing that should be noted with respect to, so say if the mayor was not available to chair a council meeting and the deputy mayor was stepping in, the deputy mayor does not assume the strong mayor powers. They are not delegated under legislation to the deputy mayor. If there was a vacancy in the interim, that person does not assume the strong mayor powers if they were appointed as the interim acting mayor. It is only to the sworn in mayor of the municipality. Committees and boards. So we do have an existing policy on advisory committees. And the problem you have sometimes is you get the procedural bylaw and then you get these other outlying pieces And for those that operate on our committees or are trying to operate on a daily basis, it's nice to have everything in one place. So we've taken those pieces that are in our advisory committee policy and worked them in under the committee section of the bylaw. As part of that, there's a separate, and this is again related to the strong mayor powers coming into place, separating the appointment of committees made up entirely of council from all of our advisory committees. So under the legislation, the mayor has the sole discretion and authority to appoint members of council to committees that are solely made up of members of council. Advisory committees and such are different. And you will see me before end of term come forward with a general advisory committee recruitment best practice to see how we handle that for the start of the next term. So along with those strong mayor powers, so we have other changes that have come into effect. So the passage of bylaws, consideration of motions. There is a new section in the bylaw that deals with budget. You will see a report coming forward from the treasurer with respect to other items that affect budget from strong mayor powers. I believe it's in September with respect to timelines and whether or not council wants to shorten those up. But in general terms, the provisions for the budget are different going forward. The budget is the mayor's, even though the mayor has given a direction already that the budget stick to as much as possible current practice. In the past, council's been able to just say, we'd like this pulled out, we'd like this changed, we'd like this. So now every single change is a motion. So there is no informal decisions during budget. Every single change to the proposed budget, which when it sits tabled is considered the mayor's budget, is done by resolution. Actually makes it easier to find for staff in the future for changes to the budget. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is more labor intensive and more onerous for council to go through that process when they get to budget. And then we'll get into the whole veto piece of those decisions when we get into the staff report in September. But those provisions have now been laid out in this bylaw. The one other piece that will be coming forward later on, and I'll explain at that point how this will happen. We have some committees that need to be appointed by bylaw, such as Committee of Adjustment, Property Standards, because they are decision-making bodies. The bulk of our committees do not need to be appointed by bylaw. They are advisory committees. They stand a resolution, and we have a confirmation bylaw, which gives every motion council passes the weight of a bylaw for the sake of decision-making. So when you pass that confirmation bylaw, ironically, it's probably the most important bylaw you pass every meeting because it gives the weight under the Municipal Act to every resolution you've passed. Okay, because the act says that council makes decisions by bylaw, not by resolution. So until that confirmation bylaw is passed, those resolutions don't have the weight. So clarity on rules respecting electronic participation, decorum, and this is a summary. So electronic participation, there are other changes, but I've highlighted what I would consider to be the bigger ones. Requirement for those attending closed session remotely to ensure that they are in a secure, private, confidential location. So we've had it in the past where, and I've had it where council members could be in their household living room, which is fine, but you need to make sure that there's no one else in your family that's listening to those closed session discussions that are happening in that room. Right? It's the integrity of that closed session and the confidentiality that needs to be maintained. Requirement to join the meeting 10 minutes before if you're going to join remotely. And this is so we have time to ensure that all the technology is working. There's no connectivity issues. We can ensure we have quorum, things along those lines. Decorum. Unfortunately, this is something that's becoming an ever increasing issue across municipalities. I'm sure you've seen it in the news. So expanding rules prohibiting disruptive, indecent, offensive, insulting language allows the chair to have more control to cut off delegations or those that are in the audience should that behavior occur. We've seen in other municipalities signs and placards brought to audiences. We've seen council members with placards being used during meetings. And it does give the ability to the chair or mayor, depending on the meeting format, to suspend the meeting until order is restored in chambers. Delegations, again, it ties in that decorum piece. It also maintains the current requirement for delegations with respect to requesting a delegation by a certain point in time, or you're bumped to the next meeting, caps on 10 minutes for delegations, such like that. Ultra vires, decorum, improper language. Again, these are things that just need to be brought up to what is generally current standard across municipalities, and unfortunately is reflecting more of the day and age that we are operating in. Correspondence and petitions. Requirement for petitions to have a minimum of 10 sovereign ratepayers on them. So a lot of times when you get petitions, they're put out at the local store and anyone traveling through town could be signing them. So you could have folks from Barrie or from Muskoka or from Toronto that are passing through that don't actually live or reside here, whether they're property owners, seasonal or not. So the requirement to actually have a minimum of 10, we thought setting it pretty low would at least give it some sort of a bar, instead of right now it could be completely abject, signed by anybody. Restrictions on what would not be put on the agenda, such as correspondence respecting stuff like insurance claims. If someone is complaining to council on personnel issues, they should be going through the CAO and HR rather than through council. Not to say that it wouldn't come forward eventually through maybe a closed session item, but they need to be going through the proper channels first before certain subject matters are brought forward. It's a pretty limited list. But particularly on stuff like liability and insurance claims and stuff like that, we should not be having delegations before council, seeking to settle something directly with council and going around our insurance company, right? The bigger part of about this change outside of the house game changes is the proposed change in format. So right now we have council and we have corporate services and we have planning and development. And the idea is that we would get rid of corporate services and planning and development. We would just have council meetings. We would have council meetings twice a month on the first and third Wednesdays rather than 3 times a month. People in the general public are often confused as to why we have 3 different types of meetings when it's still all of council sitting as council all the time, and they don't understand the difference between the 3 different types. Expanded use of the consent list, and I'll show you an example of what this would look like. So right now we have a very limited use of our consent list. We put correspondence on it, minutes, reports we get from such agencies as SSCA, things like that, that are just receiving information. Going forward, the idea is that every single item would be on consent. The motions will be published. The proposed recommendations will be published in the agenda. Again, going to that transparency piece. And only if council, and then I'm kind of getting a slide ahead of myself here, only if council actually wanted to debate it, would that get pulled into committee of the whole where council could do that, or if they wanted to change the motion. Otherwise, if council didn't want to, then they could leave it there. And it would still get adopted with the general adoption of the consent list. But I will give you an example of what that will look like in a minute. Council updates, which are done at the end of the meeting, evolving into specific county council, boards, associations, and committee summaries. So we would drop announcements. We're going to drop general updates. This is updates so that, say, if Deputy Mayor Cox is on the police board, she can bring an update as to what is happening on the police board. These updates are intended for council members. If we have community events and such, like that's what we have a community calendar for. We can put those out that way. All of you are through various different associations and groups that you were members of. And it's not that the township won't help you if you require assistance on stuff like that, but this is intended to focus that so it's more on the boards, associations, and committees that you are part of and bringing those important updates to your counterparts. And the removal of the moment of reflection. So we would maintain the land acknowledgement and we would maintain O Canada, but we would remove the moment of silent reflection. The moment of reflection is something that is what most municipalities almost 15 years ago plus evolved to when the Lord's Prayer was removed due to a court decision impacting all municipalities across Ontario. And so we're looking to remove that to kind of bring us back in, again, moving forward and moving and modernizing our bylaw and practices. So by moving to this format, it results in essentially same-day approval for everything. So right now, if something's coming forward to Planning and Development and Corporate Services Committee, it is not approved and staff cannot action it until the minutes are passed by council. So this would mean that for procurements, for planning approvals, for part lot controls, for tree removals, and things like that, or policy changes, if they were approved if they were tabled on the agenda that day, and then unless they were pulled for a committee or deferred, then they would be approved that same day and would be actionable by staff. It shortens that window up. It means that even from ratepayers who ask for correspondence to go on the agenda, that they will receive a response faster as well from council as to what that decision is. Within this new change, planning would have the ability to schedule their public meetings twice a month instead of once a month, which is where they are now. It would be on that first and third. So public meetings would be held under their committee of the whole section. So you'll see that under item 6 here. So be the first item up after we get through, I call regular delegations and the consent list. So they could have them twice a month if they needed to. If they don't need to, then that section would just stay with the header and there'd be nothing under there like there is now on various meetings. One of the other changes, so back at the start of this council term, there was a change where the first day of office was moved up. So the first day of office used to be, I think it was actually December 1st, November 30th or December 1st. And so this is the first term where the start of the actual term was moved to mid-November. So in light of that, we're looking to move our inaugural meeting up a bit. And this is for a couple different reasons. One, under the strong mayor powers and just in general, we don't normally get around to budget until late January, if not February in the start of a new term. This would let us get to that maybe a little sooner. It also means that council can get fully underway a little sooner, especially if we are immediately going into this council committee, the whole system other than committees. We can get our appointments done faster. It just lets us resume business a little faster than it did otherwise. So. And then the other one, so councilors reports. So in most municipalities, what happens is that a council member gives a notice of motion that I'm bringing forward. They'll have the whole thing done, but they'll say, here's my notice of motion. I'm bringing forward an item about, I want to make the river green for St. Patrick's Day. And then at the next meeting, once people have had time to think about it, then council actually votes on that item. So there is time for people to think about those items that aren't coming from staff, they're coming from council members. And it could be sometimes it's I want to proclaim a certain day that we've never thought about before. Sometimes it's on something, we've had various ones over the course of this term on different subject matters. So it lets council get the information before they're asked to vote on it and have it again, only 2 weeks later. So actually is no more delayed than it would be now in being approved. So. Going to the expansion of the consent list. So part of this proposal is, again, all of our reports will go under reports, whether they're informational, whether there's a huge motion attached to it, etc. Minutes will go up there, correspondence, everything. And if members would like to discuss something to the point where they want to engage staff beyond a simple, so say on a part lock control matter, if there was a simple question, say on staff report C3, Madam Director, I just want to know, is this for this street, and this street? If the answer is just a simple yes, and that's going to resolve it, then those simple one-off questions can be answered still under when a report's under consent. But there is no debate on a report when it's under consent. If council would like to have a debate on an item, it needs to be pulled and referred to committee of the whole. Okay, otherwise, any motions that are listed under that consent are adopted as they're written. Okay, I'll show you a sample of what this looks like in a minute. The idea of going to this is it lets council focus in on the items they really want to debate on versus feeling the need to make motion on every single item, even if it's just going to be adopted exactly as presented, or if it's a simple item that doesn't really merit debate because it's just here because it has to come because of whether it's the procurement bylaw or it's a housekeeping item, and council is fine with it, doesn't have any objection to it. It means it makes for a more effective and more efficient meeting, and it respects council's time a bit more on debate. So that said, I'm going to switch my screen here for a minute. And show you what this amended consent idea would look like. So I've used kind of what we've had come forward at different meetings. So this is how the consent portion of your agenda would look. So you would have minutes, and after every single item, you'll have recommendation. So this is what would be, so say if we get to the end of consent and nothing's pulled, then these would be what are considered to be adopted motions. Okay. So you'll see there's that the minutes be approved. And here there's a report from the Cuchichingo PP Detachment Board, right? That was their annual report that council saw a couple months ago, that the report be received for information. When we get down to staff reports, this is what they will look like. So unless council wanted to talk about the part lock control, you don't need to pull it unless you want to have a debate on it. This is the motion that would be passed. Okay, so moving forward, again, same thing. This is what your consent list will look like. Again, reports of their motions public, also so the public can see what the proposed action is. So, but say if we got to, I don't know, let's pick one. If council did want to talk about the AAC policies, there's no debate on someone pulling an item. So member Jensen could say, hey, I'd like to pull item C3 for discussion in a committee of the whole. There's no debate. It immediately moves over and that discussion is held then under committee of the whole. And then if you want, or say the speed limit review for today, if that was on consent, you would say, I'd like to pull C4 and that would immediately get moved. And then when we move into committee of the whole, then council can have that fulsome debate. But it means that for a lot of these reports that council sees on a regular basis, they don't need to pull them if they're on board with what the recommendation is. Again, it doesn't negate the fact that council can ask a question of clarification of staff. These reports, though, will not be presented. Only items that are pulled to committee of the whole would be spoken to by staff. These are otherwise, unless council has a question of clarification on, say, in this case, it would be the draft plan extension for area 3. They would just receive it as part of the general adoption of the consent list and it's considered adopted and we move forward. So.
Do you get to ask this question prior to adoption?
So say if we were talking about the part lock control for, I can't remember which is block 74. And someone to know, hey, does this apply to this stretch and this stretch and this stretch? Planning director could say, no, it doesn't. This is purely for this stretch of road. Or say, if we got down to the automated speed enforcement policies, I deliberately picked companies because they're a bit more chatty. If the deputy mayor had a question to say, oh, well, does the financial hardship policy apply to everybody? Is it limited in scope? I could respond and say, no, it applies to everybody. And if that answered the question, then it doesn't need pulling. It means that it's still adopted as presented. So. Okay. If council thinks that they're going to be pulling every single report for discussion, I'll be honest, there's no value in going this way on the consent list. The idea here is that it lets council focus their discussion so that they have the discussion on the items that they really want to focus on. Just like now. Yeah. So going forward, if council wanted to, we could still even now put the motions out for all the proposed reports on the current agenda as is. Right now we don't bother, but we could do that anyways. So, but if council's going to go through and pull 9 out of 10 reports that are on the consent list, there's no point in having the reports on the consent list. So it's important that council understand that that's the idea here. So then going back to my PowerPoint, sorry, it's awkward when I have to switch items here. Actually, I guess that's pretty much it for what I had up here. Yeah. So, I mean, in general, if there's questions on it, those were the highlights for me. There are, like I said, quite a number of format changes and housekeeping updates through it. But it's really the format change that's really the big discussion point.
Well, thank you. Wow, that's some report. Wow, I printed. Oh, that.
And I can show you examples of how it's working in Innisfil and Midland if you'd like to see some current operational examples as well.
PowerPoint would be handy. That's what I call a nice summary.
Perfect. Yes, Member Taylor.
Yeah, these are initial comments. Some things I like and some things I don't like. I like the idea that the items that were never pulled from consent, at least we know now what the answer is. There's to be a motion coming through, and that's good. The other one that had bothered me for a while is that there's no planning in August. So in this case, there's potential for 2 more planning meetings in August, where before we had 0. Correct me as I'm going along.
You are correct. We would still maintain the summer recess in July, and we would have 1 meeting in December and 1 meeting in January, but we would maintain the summer recess. So you could have 2 meetings of public meetings in August when we resume back.
And then to further that, the mayor opens every meeting, and does he or she chair the committee of a whole?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, in a lot of places, the chair changes when we move into committee of the whole, and that is intentional so that anyone watching can see that there is actually a change in the way the committee structure is moving to. It also means that council members, other council members would have the opportunity to chair that portion of the meeting. So, and that could be set up on a rotation.
So just to follow up, say we've gone through the procedure you had there, and we're in committee of a whole, and that's where you discuss the items that were pulled, correct?
Correct. So say if today's speed limit report was on consent, someone pulled it for committee of the whole, chair changes when we get to committee of the whole, and then council could have a robust discussion on the item and change the motion. There's no changing a motion when it's left under consent. So any motions that require changing would have to be pulled and put to committee of the whole.
So then at the end of the day, something was discussed at committee of a whole, and then once that meeting is closed, whatever we agreed to is, it's a motion of council coming from a committee of a whole?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, and I missed this part on when I was explaining the process, and I can put it up on the screen. So after committee of the whole, what happens is that committee rises and reports back to council, and all the motions that are passed then under committee of the whole are passed as council motions at the same meeting. So we rise and report back. So we rise and report, and then the mayor would resume chairing the meeting. So again, that's that change in individual, which does help people follow the flow of the meeting. And then from there, committee rises and reports and the motions pass to adopt all the motions that are coming forward from committee.
That's the confirmation.
And
It's actually a separate motion that passes. So.
yeah, so there's a lot to digest here, and I certainly think a workshop would be in order. I think you recommended that as well. So that's all my comments at this point.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So there's 2 ways today could go. So if council wants more time to digest this, that is fine. We could do a workshop. And then if council wants to adopt it, come back and adopt it, or council could adopt it if they're generally okay with it. We'd still do a workshop before the first round of meetings comes into effect under it. So 2 ways to go. But it's completely at council's discretion.
Thank you. Yes, Member Cox and then Member Mennings.
I like this. And the main reason I like it is I like the fact that you pull what you want to talk to, but the other main reason is things are moving along. When you do for planning, it's confirmed. We don't wait 2 weeks for it. Staff can get on with going for oh, sorry. Yeah. So anyway, that I like that we're moving along on it. And it just means that we all have to be highly aware that when we read our agenda, we need to make sure we check what we do, because it will be confirmed and passed that day. Before, we've always had planning and committee of the whole, and we have had time to reflect on a week or something. And if you wanted to pull it out of the minutes and speak to it again, you can, because when it's done, it's done. And I think we all need to be very aware of that. But otherwise, I think that this is a very clear and concise way to do it. And I like it. And it will take a little bit getting used to. I'm okay with it because at county, we do it comparably the same. We just have different chairs for different corporate service and performance. But it does give people also a chance to still chair meetings and get used to that. So thank you very much, Allison. This was a massive undertaking. You've explained it very well. I get a copy of that PowerPoint, then that helps with the whole thing. And then we have a workshop on it. I'll be very happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Member Minnings.
Hi, thank you through the chair. Yeah, thank you, Allison. I do really support this. It seems to me that because we meet 11 months a year, we don't meet in July for those who don't know, that may be watching. So we're going from 33 meetings a year to 26 because we're now having biweekly meetings. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there actually would be a number of meetings that all of council be required to attend. However, they're council meetings. They're not committee now. So again, that expedited approval piece. So instead of having that delay in approvals, it moves forward faster. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's what I like about it is that I found it very confusing on this council that we have 2 committee meetings and then a council meeting. And if something's on planning and development, we may have to wait a month for it to come back. So it seemed to me that, we were holding a lot of items to come forward because of the title of the committee or the meeting. My question is about a council policy. I think this is the right word. It may be a policy that we should look at, or you may already have, regarding missing meetings. So I know, for example, that you cannot miss 3 meetings in a row of maybe a committee meeting, etc. Does this stand the same now? Does this get carried on to this new structure, or is that something we have an opportunity to look at as far as attendance?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I'll start with our committees. So the committees in the proposed bylaw, 3 absences and your seats vacant. So that is the way it is now, and that is carried forward in our proposed new bylaw. Council members are different. So council members are regulated by the Municipal Act, and if you miss 3 successive council meetings, then your seat is declared vacant. So it is something to be cognizant of. If we're going to switch from committee to council, so right now you could miss planning, development, corporate services, and still attend council, and you would be fine. In this setup, if you miss 3 successive council meetings, your seat is declared vacant. Now, after the second one, you're going to have a bit of a conversation with myself. But to see if there's an extenuating circumstances. So like I've had council members that have been sick or had cancer or have a personal crisis going on. And so they put forward a request to council for an extension of time. And that is permitted under the legislation as well. So it's important to note that that mechanism is there for council members. If something very serious were to happen, that's as long as you put a request forward in time before that 3rd meeting happens and council approves it, then you don't vacate your seat. But with us switching from committee to a standing council committee, the whole system, then that timeline would be accelerated if we were to meet 3 successive council meetings, because that would be not even 2 months.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for the clarification. That was on my radar for sure. My next question is, sorry, I'm going to just pause because I didn't write it down and I was just thinking about what you just said. So I'm going to come back to that when I remember.
Thank you. No further questions? Yes, Member Taylor.
Yeah, just you'd mentioned, Allison, something about there's a difference in recorded vote. And can you just do a quick snapshot of that?
So this gets into the strong mayor's piece. So recorded vote is still a normal recorded vote is still a normal recorded vote. Where we get into, and there's tables in here to show. So say if we had only 5 members here and someone asked for a normal recorded vote, it's going to say that in order to still pass that on a 5-member attendance, you only need 3. If we were in a strong mayor veto vote, it is still based off 7, regardless of actually who is in attendance. So the determination of majority is determined on the total number of members on council, not those in attendance for a strong mayor power vote or veto. So that's the difference. It's not a weighted vote. It is the concept that it is still based on the entirety of all members of council. So if a mayor brought forward something and council wanted to veto it, but there were only 4 of you in attendance, it is still 5 that are required to veto. So, and there's no flexibility on that in legislation. So that is the difference between a current recorded vote that we're used to, and I'm going to say a strong mayor power veto vote. So 5.
It's like hiding from Texas.
I believe member Minnings may.
Yes, member
remembered what she
Minnings.
had.
I remembered my question. So because we're going to fewer meetings over the course of a year, and because council gets the agendas at the same time the public does when they're published on the website, I'm going to assume that the agendas are going to grow because we have 33 meetings condensed into 26. Is that still true? Because I do find it challenging sometimes to read through some of our agendas, all of the supporting documents. There could be upwards of, almost 1,000 pages of content. So that would be my only concern, is that you're putting more on an agenda potentially, but we still have to read it all, comprehend it all, etc.
Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I don't know if the actual sheer number of reports the council reads in a month is going to change that much. I mean, staff's work is staff's work and the pace they work at. We have some council meetings where they're over in 10 minutes, right? So this would mean that instead of having all those reports under reports on corporate services, that they would all be under consent. That is really the only shift. I don't know if you're going to see a shift in the volume of reports. It just means that the structure of how they're dealt with is different. So I think it's one of those ones we're going to have to see how it plays out. So, and it's important to note that the council schedule is still going to come forward every year for adoption. So if council is finding that it's heavy, then you could ask for an extra meeting and amend the bylaw. Like, that is always in council's purview to do. But I don't know if you'll see a change in the sheer number of reports than you're seeing now. It's just going to be structured differently.
Thank you. Member Taylor?
Yeah, just in summary, that like my feelings are like, I think we do need time to have another look at this, but also the workshop would be very important for me anyway, I've been to a few council meetings at county, and it just, I think it works well, but I think having a workshop might pose more questions and we can get some answers at that time. So I maybe delay it by a month or something, but I think a workshop would be in order.
So are you saying we do the workshop and then we decide if we're going to do it, or do we decide we're going to do it and then do the workshop?
You can do it either way. You can hold the workshop if you'd like to have more time to mull it over and think on it. And I can do up a couple draft agendas and see what that would look like. And you can see if you like that. And then if you don't, then you send me back to look at a revised draft procedural bylaw that maintains the current system.
Yeah.
So because that really is the choice. So it's maintaining our current system, or it's moving to this new format. So if council is generally comfortable with it, they can adopt it and still hold the workshop. This is entirely up to council as to how you want to handle it.
I suspect we're split on that at this point in time. So I guess we'll have to deal with that to move forward. So can we get it? Let's get a straw vote here for those who would like to see it adopted, and then a workshop after the fact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6, and then the workshop. So the motion needs to reflect that.
So just to back up again, what did you say there? I didn't quite catch that.
Basically, the question was, do we have the workshop? Do we adopt this and then have a workshop? And I didn't get around to the second question, which is, do we have a workshop and then adopt this? We've had 5, virtually all but 1, 6.
I can't speak.
No, I know you're
Yeah, no, I would support the workshop and then approval after.
Almost a consensus to adopt it and have the workshop. That's what we just did in the straw votes. Question.
Yes, through the chair. So if we adopt it now as a council, when will it actually take effect? Can we?
The proposal is October 1st, but if council wants more time, it could be November. Like, it's not a rush.
So if I may, through the chair, I would like to do the workshop, if that's okay. We can adopt it now and let's do the workshop. But and then yeah, okay, that's fine.
The request is for a motion to adopt it with a follow-up workshop and start in November. I think that's
Start in
what I-
November. Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's for a recorded vote for old time's sake here.
All right. We have a request for memories.
Okay, so the motion reads that. Give me one second here. Okay, so the motion reads that Administration Report 825-026 dated August 27, 2025 regarding a new council procedural bylaw be received, and that the new council procedural bylaw be approved, and further that the council policy C3 advisory committees be repealed, and further that a council workshop be scheduled on the new council procedural bylaw prior to it coming into effect. And further that the updated council committee schedule start November 1st, 2025. And that the required bylaw be brought forward to the next regular council meeting.
We have a mover, please. Moved by member Cox, seconded by member Mennings. All in favor? Oh, this is recorded vote. Sorry. Forgot about that.
Okay, recorded vote requested by member Taylor. Member Taylor, for or against?
No.
Okay. Member Burkett, for or against?
For?
Okay. Member Jansen, for or against?
For.
Thank you. Member Cox, for or against?
For.
Okay, member Brennan, for or against? Member McIntyre, for or against?
For.
Member Minnings, for or against?
For.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Well, that was most interesting. Now I am going to hope that G 4.2 is about 5 minutes long. We have member Burkett has to leave by noon, and I'll be moving his new business items to the top after that discussion so as we can get him out of here. So, pardon me? Well, thank you for that. Yeah. So with that having been said, G 4.2, report CAO 2025-03, deputy clerk position.
Thank you. I'll be quick, but before I start, just a reminder, we're doing a flag raising at 12, so we need to take a break for that and watch. It won't take long, but we have guests at 12, so just keep that in mind. So thank you through the chair. I think the clerk's last report was a really good setup for this particular discussion with the breadth and width of work that is done in that department. So I think we're one of the very few municipalities in Simcoe County and probably anywhere that doesn't have a deputy clerk. This position has grown significantly over 5 years. When Allison joined us, she had 1 staff. Now she has 3 different departments and 11 staff. I like to joke with the clerk that good work you get given more work. And I think she's not finding that funny anymore. So I have to stop that and find her some resources. And we are heading into an election campaign, which in addition to the extras that we weren't expecting, like the strong mayor powers, which isn't hard, but it is time consuming and very prescriptive. Same with the ASE, it's time consuming and very structured. So we need to get her some help. It's always been on my radar, but it's become to a tipping point that I think council needs to consider getting her some assistance.
Thank you. Member Cox.
I totally agree. We had one years and years ago, a separate deputy clerk and a clerk. And I've watched this evolve, and I think it's the best recommendation I've seen in a while, and I'm all in favor of it. Thank you.
Oh, Member Taylor.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the current person is doing a great job there, but will we save any money at election time? I know we put money away. Is it 15,000 a year for elections? Is there some savings there?
Probably not. I mean, a minor casual people, maybe there'll be less, maybe there won't. It won't be it'll be minor in.
And just in summary, I know we're presumably going to approve this before the budget, so it's going to make it an even tougher budget agreeing to this thing. So it's a case by case situation, but I would support it.
Thank you. Member Mannings.
I thank you through the chair. Yeah, I'm glad to see this come forward, and I fully support it. I do have a question though. I'm going to assume that the deputy clerk will report to the clerk. And so my question is this new position a management position, and will they take over some of the direct reports of the clerk? Or are we increasing the clerk to 12 direct reports and reducing their workload?
Thank you. Through the
Thank
chair. Currently, the director has 4 direct reports. She will go down to 3 because the deputy clerk, will take over the supervising the bylaw officers.
Further questions? Yes, Member Jensen.
Thank you. I do support adding this position. I'm just wondering if it's better to be discussed during our budget so that we can understand the financial impact.
That's up to council, not up to me.
Member Cox.
I understand how you feel, and I may have thought that way too, but the sooner we get this position started, because if we wait for budgets, you're going to look into December, then it's January, then it's February, and then we're already into getting ready for election, and she'll have lots on her plate. So I am in favor of a pre-budget approval for this. Thank you.
Member McIntyre.
Thank you. Through the chair, I also am in favor of expediting this as quickly as we can. However, there is a figure, I think, did I read $35,000 between now and the end of the year, Madam CAO?
Thank you. Through the chair, you did. I don't think that was the concern. I think the concern is what it impacts next year's budget, which is a fair concern for sure. But we have a number of positions that have been proposed, and I've deemed this one as the #1 priority. So it may mean that some of the other ones that are proposed for next year won't come forward because we don't have room. I mean, we have a good understanding of where council's tolerance is. So although I think I have 4 or 5 on the list, I know that's not going to fly. So I will prioritize the next ones into what I think is tolerable for council to approve.
Well, just follow up through the chair. I agree that the sooner the better, and it isn't a pressing one. So, and $35,000, if that's the figure, it doesn't faze me. I think the clerk needs to get on with it and get her assistant as quickly as we can. I agree with it.
Yeah, so can we have a motion, please?
Thank you. Motion reads that the Chief Administrative Officer report CAO 2025-3 dated August 27, 2025 regarding a deputy clerk position be received, and that the CAO and Director of Corporate Services Clerk be directed to recruit for a deputy clerk as soon as possible.
Thank you. Mover, Member Cox, second, Member McIntyre, all in favor? Motion is passed. You want to do first?
We can do the economic development. I'm just going to comment on it.
Okay, economic development.
Yeah. If you, and I'm happy what Becky has done and brought forward to the township. I look at the list of things that we've done, that's ongoing, that's on hold, and I'm sure we've all read what's in there. I'm looking forward it's going to happen as we move forward, but I do have some photos of, and I can't remember where it was now, where she's looking what Severn was about and how we came to be. I do have some photos for Becky about Lock 42 and how it was built. So I've got some original photos I got from Parks Canada, because that's an integral part because of the lock system that we have within our own jurisdiction. So I just want to comment. Well done, Becky. Then we can move on to the other one, unless somebody else has some
If I may add, I happen to be in possession of 3 books on the history of the area that belong to a resident, Patsy Cran. I have them on loan from her. They may be useful too. They're rather fascinating reading.
No.
All right. We have a motion then, please?
Yeah, so the motion is that Administration Report A25-027 dated August 27, 2025 regarding an economic development strategy 2024 to 2027 update be received.
Mover. Oh, yes.
I just want to, you missed it, but the mayor said what a wonderful report your economic development was, and he has some pictures he wants to talk to you about, and we all agree about your report. Thank you. He'll summarize that.
Way to go there. All right. Mover, can you move it now? All right, we have a mover. Member Cox, seconder. Member Burkett.
Oh, sorry.
All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. All right. We will move to your second item, and we have 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you through the chair. And again, thank you, Tracy. Excellent report. And thank you for everything you do. As I said before, when I was first elected, and I think for about 7 years, the clerk and I would be somehow trying to write something depending on where I needed to be. And it was a struggle. So I just wanted to ask you about priorities for 2026, where it says continue to expand outreach to stakeholders and build community pride by developing a corporate communications plan and a social media strategy. And I know in today's world, we all have these cell phones, and what worries me is Facebook and the fake news that we have out there. Like, we can't believe, like, some of it's good, but I can't take everything for the truth. Do we weigh in on that, or is that a plan that you're going to come up with on your own? I'm just curious.
Chair, through the chair to Member Burkett. Thanks for the question. So this is something that we've proposed as a plan that's actually, we're going to put that out for tender. So this will be something that will involve our stakeholders, members of the community, staff, council, to kind of all weigh in on these things. And really, I would say what we want it to be is kind of writing down and documenting how we currently communicate, identifying some of those gaps, and then identifying the opportunities on how we can improve and enhance our communications moving forward.
Thank you, because I think it's sorry, through the chair, supplementary, if I may. And as you know, it's so important, like communication today, to get it out there that quickly, right? So that people are always on their phones so we can cut off this Facebook stuff where they're not telling the truth all the time, which I really struggle with, because it really bothers me when they don't know, for example, gray shot, and they think we're putting curbs and sidewalks. You know, all we're doing is paving the road. And it's funny how the news gets out there so quickly and it's not the truth. So yeah, thank you for that. And I don't know if other members have comments or not.
Member Cox.
I'd just like to comment on the fact that I'm encouraged with the developing and implementing proactive and strategic communication campaigns. And I think that's it does totally relate back to what the mayor spoke to, and the fact that people out there now are getting information sooner, faster, and they're questioning sooner and faster, and we're getting hit with questions sooner and faster. So this will help us be ready too. So thank you very much for everything you do.
Seeing no more questions, can I please have a motion?
Thank you. Motion reads that Administration Report A25-023 dated August 27, 2025 regarding communications update be received.
Mover. Moved by Member Paquette, seconded by Member McIntyre. All in favor? All right, we're going to. Aurelia Matters was awesome and timely. Very impressive.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we had two. Oh, yes.
Sorry, I
Madam CEO.
was going to say something about that, but Judith covered it nicely. But that's a really good example of proactive communications, because we had been reading on Facebook all sorts of silliness about council's exempt and staff aren't getting texted and whatever. So the team added to the frequently asked questions, and then the reporter picked it up. So you'll notice all the things from his article. Sorry, I was struggling for the word there. Was pulled from our frequently accessed. So we don't respond to people's Facebook stuff, but we do monitor it. And if there are a flavor of questions that are frequent or flavor of untruths that are, we try and address that proactively in a more professional way. And I think that was a great example. The article was fantastic, and it was a surprise that the reporter wanted to talk about that at the grant presentation. So we very quickly prepped Mayor Mike on his key messages, and he did awesome.
Yes, sir. Member Minnings.
Hi, thank you. Just for the record, because I view these back. So we're talking about the article in Aurelia Matters. I think it was today or yesterday about the Severn speed cameras. Is that right? Because the microphone wasn't on for the first part of whatever you were saying to introduce this.
Well, that was in yesterday's Aurelia Matters.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, 10 minutes, please. Okay.
So we have a flag raising to do here at the office just for member Minnings and Jansen, and then we'll be back in about 10 minutes or so.
We're going to start up in a couple of minutes here for anyone. I'm just waiting to see Dan. Welcome back. Member Meetings. He can't go skiing. He pulled an item.
What's the weather like in Newfoundland?
It's beautiful and sunny and warm. I think pretty much like at home.
Good. Don't forget to kiss a cod.
Yeah, I saw that right in the airport. I didn't know that was a thing.
Did you get Donna safe and sound to her sister there?
Yes, I'm sure she's fine.
We're still live streaming. Dan, are you out there? Thank you. All right, back to new business and item E 2.1, County of Simcoe seeking input for the future of the Matchedash Waste Transfer Station. Go ahead, Member Jensen.
No problem. Thank you. I'm just wondering, I know Member Cox is on the county council. I'm just wondering if there were any environmental studies done prior to the plan to seek input from the public on the Anderson line location. The reason I bring it up is because when you're driving up Anderson line, there's signage that says source water protection area, and I'm interested in finding out what those studies are.
Thank you. Member Cox?
I do know that the wells are they have monitoring wells on that site. And I do have a report I can send you. They came back from the MOE that was on the site. The ones that were on the site came back from the MOE as acceptable and fine. I do understand your concerns, and everyone else, I have the same concern. It is supposed to be a waste transfer site, so it's not a dump per se, but there's still, I have the same concerns of any spillage or anything that might happen up there. So far, that's all I have to tell you, but I can get hold of county staff and find out anything else because I don't believe anything's been done. I have been also told that, and I don't know all the truth of it, but the Ministry of Environment, I'm not sure if it has to go through them again to reopen as a transfer site because it was closed at one time. So I'm not sure about that, but I can find those questions out. And I'm trying to get anything I can out to the public. And the one issue I've heard is, and I have that form here, and I've sent it out, and I noticed that the county staff has weighed in on the Coldwater Ontario Facebook page and given them the website to go to complete the survey. But I think it's good to know, and I think I haven't sent it out to everybody, that option 1 to relocate Matchedash transfer facility to Anderson line is $3.4 million. Plus, I think it will be more than that with any extra environmental works. I can't say that for sure, but that is what I've heard other county councilors tell me. Option 2 to expand the Matchedash site is the capital project will be $3,130,000, which is less expensive. And in order to limit the waste materials, which a lot of them have said the problem is a lot of contractors, and we don't have a weight machine, the weigh scales, that's the word I'm looking for. Its estimated cost is $525,000. And so that would definitely be keep the site, but just, maybe not take as many things, and they can go to the Barry Road site or up to the North Simcoe site outside of Midland or over to Ramera to the Mara one. The other one that some people have been talking about is if it is this important to have it, then maybe it should be open more on the Matchedash site, should be open like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, instead of just 2 days a week. And I know that the staff from the Matchedash site and the Mara site They go 2 days in Matchedash, and I think they do 2 days over there. So that's something else we can look at. I just need people to understand to fill this survey out, because this is our only chance. I've emailed out more and more information to people. I've told them about things, but we really have to push it because it closes on September the 7th. And I don't want someone coming to me and saying, well, we didn't know. But we've tried as hard. I've tried, and we've sent it to all the cottage associations. I've sent it to cottagers I know, so they can go up and down the roads and let them know. I know you were handing them out, Dan, at the 2 events we had, which was really great. Just anybody you see, please make sure that they do online surveys. Thank you.
Member Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair. No, I'm glad this was pulled, and those watching virtually can go to the Simcoe County website and just we need all the input there. And the deputy mayor is saying that the input so far has been pretty good, and just get it out there and let your voice be made there.
Thank you, Dan. Sorry. Thank you, Dan, for bringing that forward.
May I have a motion, please?
Thank you. So set the correspondence from the County of Simcoe regarding the county seeking public input on the future of the Matchedash Waste Transfer Station be received for information.
Mover? Member Jensen? You move it. Yeah. Seconder? Member Cox? All in favor? Motion passed. All right. Last of the pulled items, E 2.3, Coldwater and District Agricultural Society request to install a sea-can container at fairgrounds. Member Cox.
I'm sure that staff have already heard about this, but I will say that the Fair Board and Bob Burke has been very proactive. They called me to ask me what they should do, who they should call, how we can make this work for them. And I think it's a really good idea. I like the fact that they're going to put a roof on it and paint it the same color. They do need storage, and I think it's a good idea because that gives them more storage space as we move forward with our master fairgrounds plan. They may have to store more things. We don't know, but at least we can say that we have been helping them out. Thank you.
Yes. Member Taylor.
So, yeah, I would support this too, but under the understanding that staff have had a look at it and they support it as well. So whether it's planning, building, and recreation, whether if staff can jump in there, it'd be great.
Yeah. Yes, Andrea.
Thank you, Chair Brennan, through you to Member Taylor. Just a couple quick notes. Obviously, the structure will have to comply with the township zoning bylaw, including setbacks. I understand there may have been previous minor variances on the fairgrounds in the past for other buildings, so we'll have to keep that in mind. The structure, due to its size, will require a building permit. And with the addition of the roof portion, the drawings in support of the building permit will need to be prepared by a qualified engineer. So that's an extra step as well. So just a few notes there.
Yes, Member Cox.
And I'm sure that they have been made aware of this. Through to Andrea, sorry.
If I may, through you, Member Brennan, to Member Cox, I understand that Mr. Belfry has had preliminary discussions in that regard, but we'll certainly make sure between us that this information is conveyed.
Questions or inquiries? Can we have a motion, please?
Thank you. So the motion reads that the correspondence from the Coldwater District Ag Society regarding a request to install a sea can container on the Coldwater Fairgrounds be received, and that the request be approved conditional upon the Coldwater District Agricultural Society working with the Director of Recreation Parks and Facilities with respect to its proposed location and obtaining the required building permit, and that the Coldwater District Agricultural Society agreement with the township be amended to include the sea can container.
Moved by Member Cox, seconded by Member Taylor. All in favor? The motion passes. All right, that does new business. Committee member updates. Let's start with Member Jansen.
Thank you. So for the Coldwater BIA, we just held 2 successful events, the Magical World of Fairies and the Magical World of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Both events were very well attended, bringing lots of visitors into the community. Lots of people dressed up for the fairy night. The amount of cute kids running around town with fairy wings on was spectacular. I'd like to thank Chelsea Kincaid. She's the chair of our events committee. Unfortunately, she is moving on, but I do thank her for all the work she put into putting on those two events. I'd also like to thank the volunteers that came forward. We had a lot of teenagers and kids from the Equinox Drumming Club that were there volunteering. It was great to see them in action, manning the craft tables and helping out on both days and manage the events. The BIA's next signature event is the Witches Walk. Of course, there's also the Steampunk event that's being held not by the BIA, but it is being held September the 13th in Coldwater for visitors that may be interested. For Seg Bay, our meeting was postponed. It was to take place yesterday, but it was postponed. It will be taking place in September. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Mennings.
Hi, thank you. As far as events in the West Shore area, there aren't any updates that I can provide at this time, but I did want to just touch briefly on two takeaways I had from the recent AMO conference, and I think that the deputy may be speaking to this more broadly. So these are just my takeaways. The first was a session that I went to, a presentation regarding long-term care and seniors housing and nursing home needs, et cetera, from the municipal perspective. And so that was really exciting for me. And I have lots of great information on that I'll be rolling up and sharing over the next little while. And the second takeaway was on short-term rentals. There was a presentation from one of our neighboring municipalities, and that also was very enlightening and informative, but it certainly was the conversation topic at one of the big sessions I went to and on almost every subcommittee meeting. So really excellent. And second to that, having a tour of the federal legislature, which was a first for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Member McIntyre.
Thank you, Chair. Had a very successful Canada Day parade. We had a large turnout, number of floats. We had a dedication by the warden of our swan that's been placed on the corner of 169 and Muskoka Street. In attendance was Judith and the mayor and no, the mayor wasn't there. Judith and Basil and myself, Dana too, and Dave Snutch, and Wanda. Yes, Wanda was there. We had an art gallery auction recently on Saturday. Multiple guest judges: Omar from Scoops, the deputy mayor, Judith, David Snetch from Mayor Basil Clark, the warden, and Mayor Mike, and myself. It didn't get a hard number, but I think we raised close to $8,000 or $9,000. I haven't had the hard number given to me yet. And before we get too further into the year, we're going to start having meetings about the Santa Claus parade. So that's about all I have from now.
Thank you. Member Cox.
As far as committee updates go, I really don't have any. I had no committee meetings, and we're just getting ready, like Jim said, to look forward to the other ones. I do have a OPP board meeting in September, so and all my other meetings will be back on. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Taylor.
Okay, I'll start with Severn Sound. We have a budget completed, which involves 7 municipalities. There's still a hope that Georgian Bay will stay there, but we have to go ahead with 7. In addition to that, a third party has been hired to review the current funding formula. And a big thank you to township staff, namely Lori, for helping out setting up the RFP for Severn Sound. Matchedash Community Heritage Center, we're looking at new flooring for the entrance and washrooms, and we're getting a quote on new eaves trough as well. So it's very exciting there at the Matchedash Hall. Cowater Mill, this Friday night's the last night for Friday night music. So it's Matt Plain is the artist from 7 to 9. Our AGM is September the 25th, and all of council is invited to come, and staff if they want to come to the AGM. AMO attended last week. Excellent information. One of the items was the short-term rental, and we see in my on my phone, AMO sent out. You can actually see all the presentations online, so you can look up the one on short-term rentals and different else. So it's excellent to get in contact with other municipalities. Seg Bay Golf Tournament. We were there last Thursday, and great turnout, intermixing with everyone there. And congratulations for Fred Waring for starting this and maintaining it. And he's nearing $400,000 raised for that cause. So well done all around. And last night I was in the Cowater Curling Club, attended the presentation of the Trillium Fund for a new ice maker for the curling rink. And it's unbelievable the number of people that attended it for Cowater. The place was packed. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
And they really know how to have a meeting. You walk in, everybody's drinking beer. Wait, I had August off basically on committees, but I did have a meeting on Monday at Otis Park, and I'll report one item coming up, Fall Fair, October 3rd to 5th. That's it.
I'm good today. Thank you. We've spent a lot of time together in the last few weeks.
Okay, so proceeding into closed session, then the motion reads that committee resolve in a closed session that this meeting is hereby now closed to the public pursuant to the Municipal Act SO 2001, Chapter 25, Section 2392, for the purpose of considering a position plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of the municipality or local board.
Oh, sorry. Yes. May I have a mover here? Member McIntyre and Member Taylor. All in favor? We're there. Good, let's have a motion.
The motion is that closed session adjourn at 12:54 PM. And that the meeting is hereby now reopened to the public. Need a mover and a seconder.
Mover, please. Moved by member Cox, seconded by member McIntyre. All in favor? Motion has passed.
Okay, second motion is that the confidential direction to staff on planning report P25-033 be confirmed and voted on in accordance with section 2396B of the municipal act.
Mover, Dan, moved by member Jansen and seconded by member Mennings. All in favor? The motion has passed.
Okay, it's just a motion to adjourn then.
Motion to adjourn. Come on. Motion to adjourn. Member Cox, seconded by member McIntyre. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned.
Enjoy yourself, Wanda.
Yeah. Have fun.
Bye, everyone.
Fine.
Take care, you guys.